Join us in celebrating 25 years of
we're live.
personal home
Welcome
care.
to the broadcast. Thanks for joining us. If you just joined us, my name is Michael.
It was just a problem solution, one product
And
company.
we have
Since
got
then, with the help of my dedicated employees,
we've got
we now
lots to cover
have
here.
hundreds of products some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use My Pillows, $25. My Pillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium My Pillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code.
Oh, let's see. Let me just turn that down.
Extravaganza. Order $75 and over.
Sorry about that. Trying to find a happy medium. Okay. The good news is no one watches this. No one watches my channel. I've been shadow banned. And the good news is no one watches this. No one watches my channel. I've been shadow banned. And the good news is no one watches this. Okay. Let's see. That's it. That's not good. Trying to work out the kinks here for the DNC coverage. That's coverage of the coverage. I'm trying to share the link to it. Go back here. Oh, okay. So, okay. Let's see here. Oh, hey. Welcome, Liberty. All right, now. Let's see here. Turn this up a little bit here. Let's see here. It's a Spanish. Let's see. Oh, here I can chat right here.
The DNC barely underway, but the Planned Parenthood vasectomy van's already in mid-season form, offering white dudes for Harris a free snip, and Primetime's hearing the lines wrapped around the block. We sent Johnny to get a free vasectomy, and he's on a waiting list. This country cannot afford any more jobs. And don't worry, ladies, abortions are on the house too. After all, Democrats take depopulation very seriously. And there seems to be real market for that kind of thing. Protesters are dressing up like abortion pills. But it's not all peace, love, and abortions in Chicago. Pro-Hamas radicals from across the nation have descended onto the DNC with one goal in mind: disruption. One of them rushed the stage and grabbed the mic at a Dem party.
Synced up here.
I think that was clearest for Palestine. These protesters aren't Republicans. This is the Democrat base. They've radicalized their voters to the point where they become just unmanageable.
The tablet is a little bit ahead of the TV, but the sound will only come from the tablet because I guess it's, you know.
For Democrats, war is already home. It's a civil war. The same party who championed defund the police
I still can't believe
is
it.
now protecting itself from itself. After years of saying walls don't work, Democrats have suddenly decided that good fences do, in fact, make good neighbors. The city put up a wall around the perimeter of the DNC, and armed security is checking everyone's IDs at the gates. So racist. But Kifa Antifa, they don't like walls. That's why they've been tearing them down.
Yeah, I like Jesse Waters. He's good. He's good.
Several people have already been arrested, and the clash between protesters and police seems to be getting worse. But why is this protection only provided to
Waters
the
is a good
DNC
host, yeah.
and not regular Americans? This weekend, 30 people were shot in Chicago. 5 were killed. Where's the surge of police on the South Side? Where are the fences? The answer is Democrats only care about their security, not yours. But we've discovered the most dangerous members of Kifa Antifa aren't the ones with the bats and the smoke bombs. They're the ones carrying banjos. Viewer warning.
Oh. What's going on? Huh. My tablet just kind of died. Oh, it's charging. It's still charging? I thought I'd got it plugged in. Sorry. Oh, man. Okay, I know what I can do. I know what to do. It wasn't charging here. Let's see. One second. I'll fix this here. No problem. Just get a real outlet. Let's see here. My apologies. Because, yeah, for some reason, when I use YouTube TV and it's coming out of it's called digital. Yeah, it's like, okay. There we go. Yeah, and seeing as how they can beam electricity, so Liberty, your device is being charged. Yeah, so apparently they can beam electricity because obviously we have wireless charging. So they can beam They could probably beam electricity all the way to your phone from who knows from who knows how far away. Okay. Nope. Where's my? There we go. As long as I say something every once in a while, I'm thinking it won't flag myself. I don't know. Let's see here.
So thank you so much.
Okay.
So how does Chicago feel about hosting the DNC? Johnny hit the streets to find out.
Are you in town for the convention?
I have no clue what the convention is.
Are you excited for the convention that's in town?
See the traffic? Not really.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say about a -3.
Yeah, and I'm a delegate. What is a Democrat?
It's the one that stands for the people.
But what have the Democrats done for the people?
I mean, we've done a lot for the people.
All right. Are you sure?
Give everything away for free. Democrats are not for the people.
I don't think Kalama is for her people. And so now we got some work to do.
Lots of liberals who walk in the streets. Anyone you're excited to see?
Not at all.
Oh, there's Nancy Pelosi. I'm just kidding.
Oh, of course, Kamala, of course,
Okay.
right?
She's not gonna be
That's a
walking.
little bit better.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets.
What have the Democrats done to improve your life?
I couldn't tell you one thing. And I'm not like saying that to be rude. Not much. I can't remember anything.
You have to school it rough. You know what I mean? I'm sure if I dug
Yeah,
deep,
Kamala,
I'm sure
Kamala.
there may have been some things.
You'd be digging for a long time.
I don't have a big enough show.
Who is our current vice president?
It's not Pelosi, right? Or whatever that was. No, I have no idea.
Kamala Harris.
What do you think of her?
To me, she just does a lot of flip-flopping.
If she's in it, I feel like it's going to be her husband. So her husband is really going to be president because he's supposed to be the most dominant one in a relationship. Can we just give it up again for my husband?
Kamala Harris rolled out a big economic plan this week. What have you heard about it?
Absolutely nothing.
Not nothing interesting.
Whatever she says mimics exactly what Donald Trump says.
What?
I knew it.
$25,000 for first-time home buyers. Kamala said she can do that on day one,
Let's do it.
but now she's on day 1,000.
1,000 days of what?
She's in office.
As vice president, yes.
They don't do much.
She's done a lot.
I'm not a big fan of his brain.
Kamala's VP pick wants to give little boys tampons, illegal immigrants driver's licenses, and he let rioters destroy his city.
Tell me you're joking. Face psych right now. That doesn't sound good.
He's like America's dad.
Your dad put tampons in your bathroom.
No, my dad didn't. I'm not crying, you're crying.
They shouldn't be here. It's illegal.
In my opinion, we already have too many people here.
Donald Trump's getting a lot of heat because he said illegal immigrants
Oh,
are
this is not
taking
full
away
screen.
black jobs.
I
Well, that's
believe
good.
that. I agree with that.
He's trying to protect black jobs.
So
right.
When I
so
say
here's the
for
thing:
the people,
is
has Kamala done anything for the people?
It's went down to $35 for our seniors.
Did she do that or did
Is-
Biden do that?
It's a team effort.
she said on day one, I will do something about inflation. Why you can't do it now? You know, you're the vice
That's a
president
great
right
question.
now.
She locked up a lot of
You know?
white people.
She's the vice president right now.
Turn that off.
Trump's tower in Chicago down the block. Is he for the people?
That man, he got my vote. He's for the money and I'm for the money. So let's get the money.
I just love him because he's kind of like I am.
He's a Trump voter. I don't think we have to worry about him, do we?
What do you
For
want
sure.
to tell Jesse Waters?
I'm Frankie, and this is my space. So, Johnny, get out of my face.
Kamala's running mate now under investigation. Right back.
Hi,
Yeah, that's unless they
Jim
cut
Caviezel here.
unless they cut it and cut the
You know,
people
St.
that
John
said
Paul II
uh,
profoundly impacted my life.
uh,
And I just finished
Harris
recording
out.
some
But yeah,
profound
I that's
meditations
not
last
asking
night
as well.
on the Hallow app.
Yeah, it'd be very
This
hard to
content is
fake it.
incredible.
Difficult,
Won't you join us in
difficult, not impossible,
St.
as they
John Paul
say.
II second challenge? It'll change your life.
Now, can you hear me? Okay,
And join me today.
I'm only going to say
God
it
bless
so
you.
that I know if you're. I know there may be delay, but can you hear me okay over the TV? Thank you for watching. If you're just joining us, welcome to the broadcast. Your calls or texts at 816-877.
Call or visit
I
Rebouts.com for your free
don't have that
in-home
number
design
memorized. It's
consultation.
9348.
To me, Harlem is home,
Okay.
but home is also your body.
816-877-9438. 9438. Always live, never scripted.
Studio. Getting a brick and mortar in New York is not easy. Chase Inc. has supported us from Studio 1 to Studio 3. When you start small, you need some big help, and Chase Inc. was that for me.
Earn up to 5% cash back on business essentials with the Chase Inc. Business Cash Card.
So,
for business.
I have
Make more
some
of what's
yeah.
yours.
So I've got some opinions on, but I'm gonna just during the commercials I'll talk. Is
Katie felt embarrassed.
that's what so
Disconnecting.
so
I asked my
without
doctor about
where I can leave my God out of it, right? About the issue of it's a heart wrenching decision, right? As far as they're offering, they've got a van with offering reproductive health services, I guess you could say, but the science says that they're alive, and the science, that's a little too hot for TV sometimes, but it's a hot button issue, but it's kind of my litmus test because I've thought it through, and so
stiff muscles, or
okay,
thinking, as these
good idea.
life-threatening. Sleepiness is the most common side effect.
Take control by asking your doctor about Ingrezza.
50 times more powerful than heroin.
It
was causing the most deaths that I'd ever seen.
It was the first time I've ever heard the name.
I can easily.
You're looking at a sociopath. Okay, I'll be your sociopath.
I'm gonna see if I can easily do that.
Definitely the smartest criminal I ever met. This guy's a death march. This thing was fucked before it turned wicked. As the leaves turn and the air cools.
Oh, cool. That's the way I can do it. That's the quickest way. Because the volume, the charging cable is on the side. If I flip it, then the volume control would be on the top. But then no, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, I've got it. Okay, so I got it, and because the volume control, the volume rocker is on the bottom right now with this little tablet stand, and so hey, I got a question for you out there. Do you think when people say it's the Democrat National Convention and people say it should be the Democratic National Convention, right? Because Democrat doesn't sound good because it's Democratic, but we don't say Republicanic, do we? It's just the Republican National Convention, It's Republican, because I think Democrat sounds too much like rat, and that's why they don't want to say Democrat. Democrat Party, they call it. They prefer to be called the Democratic Party. And what say you about that? I just let's see, yep, constitutional republic. We are a republic. And so I got some country singers performing at the DNC. So I guess I know Biden is speaking at 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time, 10 p.m. State CDT post meridian. Yeah. And I don't know what time Hillary Clinton is speaking, but I know the President of the United States will be speaking at 10. I bet he's last, so the Demon Rat Party. And there was one time there was a commercial that was here it goes.
DNC in Chicago, where country star Jason Isbell's performing. Let's take a listen for a
Oh,
second.
let's take. I wonder if Hillary's standing next to him with a yeah. I saw him walk in to the stadium, so he is there in the auditorium. But I guess after the speech, he's going to leave and go on vacation to California.
Moments ago, the Great Walls of China arriving at the DNC. There he is, and
The Great Walls of China.
I'm hoping he can make history as the first Chinese vice president.
It's hard to remember this, but before we had the real black president, remember when Bill Clinton was supposedly the first black president? Well, Tim Walz is going to be the first Chinese vice president of our country.
It's kind of turn off when
When
celebrities
he
get
broke out a
political.
with me like 5 years ago, my jaw dropped. I said, really?
The CCP loves Walz more than Hunter. And Tiananmen Tim loves him back. He went to the main line 30 times on his little communist sabbaticals, including his honeymoon with his wife and giant groups of students. She didn't seem to mind. How many Americans are visiting China like this in the 90s? Not many. Walls was a part of the first wave of Americans to teach there. The guy routinely carried around Mao's little red book to every palace and temple he visited. If there's one thing Walls and Kamala have in common, it's their love for communism. According to a local news article from the 90s, Walls told his students China has a system in which everyone shares and gets free food and housing. But not everybody in China is treated the same. Walls was paid twice as much as any Chinese teacher while he was there. He had the only air-conditioned apartment on campus, which came in handy after long days of Tai Chi in the quad. Walls was the only one allowed to watch TV in color. Everybody else stuck with black and white. But Tai Chi Tim would often repay their generosity, hosting epic birthday and Christmas parties for the Chinese. Bet that little red book was a huge hit at Secret Santa. Walls told a local newspaper, no matter how long I live, I'll never be treated that well again. It's almost like they were grooming him. Walls was enlisted in the National Guard for all of these trips. Why would the Chinese give a member of the U.S. military such access? Who's to say that China, the world's biggest surveillance state,
I mean, it's
doesn't
okay
have
that your
anything
keyboard's
on
messed up. Not
Walls?
that it's okay that Tim Walz said.
Democrats cried
like,
for
Tucker
years that
Carlson was
Trump
so
was
cringe.
compromised because he stayed one night at a Ritz in Moscow. But Walls spends decades going back and forth to China, then rises through the U.S. military and political ranks, and no one seems to care. The FBI isn't concerned, of course, not even a little. But Congressman James Comer is. And now the House Oversight Committee is launching a fresh probe into Walls and his Chinese ties. He was the first Chinese vice president targeted or recruited for CCP influence operations. We might just find out. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer is here. Congressman, how is it that the FBI doesn't seem to care about this at all, and you do?
Well, it's very concerning that the FBI, to my knowledge, has never even investigated this. Now, we're still trying to determine what extent they have as far as all the trips this high-level official from the United States government, even before that in the military, made to China. Look, if you look at Waltz's background, and you look at his ideology and the things he talks about when he ran for attorney general and he ran for governor, this is a guy that really has embraced China's view of the world, the Chinese ideology, which is communism. And I think you look at Walt, and I fear we have a guy that who's never been in the private sector. He's worked for the government his whole life. From looking at his financial background, it doesn't look like he owns any stocks. You know, his retirement's in a government pension plan. This guy's very dependent on the government, and I believe he thinks that China, the business model that China's had, might be the ideal model for the United States. Let the government make the decisions for the people. Let the government control the markets. Let the government control the businesses. Let the government get the people out of poverty. This is something that should be a concern to every American. The media is not examining this. I think
I hope because I know about China, and you know about China, Congressman. You did this when you looked into Hunter. When you go to China, they surveil you. If an American goes to China 30 times in the 90s, they had surveillance footage of him. They have surveillance footage probably of his honeymoon night. What kind of compromise is that? They were worried about Trump and a P-tape situation, that was all made up. This is serious business.
It's very serious. China thinks long term. It's very possible that China would be grooming an up-and-coming rising star in the political process to try to have a foothold.
It's 10 p.m. So yeah, Biden's going on stage 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time.
Taught them with sky rings in our universities. This is how China operates. They think long term. And again, I can't say this enough. When you look at Hunter Biden's ties with communist China, it was for money. It looks like Waltz's ties may be for ideology, and this is something that we should be concerned about. We're trying to gather as much information.
Oh, AOC and Hillary Clinton are taking the stage soon, moments away.
About Kamala Harris that she picked this guy to be her number 2.
Yeah,
I know.
All right,
That's past his bedtime. 10 p.m. is past his bedtime. Yeah, it's kind of late. Yeah, he should be
Fox News alert: the DNC starting to heat up. We've got some big players taking the stage set. We've already seen L.A. Mayor Karen Bass, Senator Dick Durbin, the good old Reverend Jesse Jackson, and Maxine Waters, no relation, and a performance by
No relation.
Coming
Maxine
up, we'll have
Waters.
Hillary Clinton, AOC, Jill Biden, Dr.
I hope
Jill
he took a
Biden,
nap.
and President Joe
I
Biden.
hope the president took a nap.
But in the meantime, let's go to Johnny on the floor. He's talking to a very special DNC delegate. Johnny.
Jesse, it was very hard to find a delegate on the floor of the DNC that would want to talk to you. But luckily, I went to New Hampshire and I found Uncle David Waters, senator from New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
What's it like being Jesse's uncle?
Well, now Jesse didn't just fall out of the coconut tree, so it's all family. It's all family, and we all love each other, and we do talk to each other. We do.
Now, when you're, he's Jesse Waters. You guys fight about politics.
Well, I always win if we do, but we make fun of each other, and I think that's the best way.
So, who's more liberal, Jesse's mom Tex, or Jesse's uncle?
I'm sorry, Anna. I'm going with Steve, but the prize in the family goes to Grandpa Frank.
Grandpa Frank. Now, you knew Jesse since he was growing up.
So
when
I
did
do,
you realize that something went
I do want to say
terribly
something
wrong?
every once in a while, just so
Well,
that they don't.
Jesse,
Because it had to be copyrighted because it's like it's a Democrat National Convention, so it shouldn't be. But I don't know if they want to. Sometimes that's why people mirror their image so they don't get taken down.
How do you feel that your uncle is on the floor right now?
I feel
infringing on
proud
somebody.
that my uncle is participating in the democratic process.
Now, if it was a sports event, they would get me quick because they say this broadcast is intended for the use of our audience. Any reproduction or
It's not going to go well in November.
All right, well, it's his girl down here.
Right.
All right, let's see.
Democratic version.
I don't know about that. I don't know if he knows how to do it. Maybe. All right, thank you so much. I know someone that knows how to do it. Got it. Practicing all night.
Where is I was wondering, is she not here?
No, she's not here. Thank God. Why? I'm not ready.
That's handy.
Welcome to Hannah. Thank you, Jesse. And tonight we are broadcasting live. We're in Chicago. We are at the DNC. So you don't have to be. Anyway, the people are nice, some of them. And while Democrats are what is the week of lies, fairy tales, illusions, propaganda, misinformation, besmirchment of Donald Trump, we're going to tell you the real story. Coming up tonight, Joe Biden, he is set to speak tonight. This was supposed to be his big week. In fact, the Democratic platform still repeatedly, laughingly, refers to Biden's second term. Now, poor Joe, unfortunately, was kicked to the curb in a political coup led by Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, other Democratic elites. And, of course, they disenfranchised every Democratic primary voter. But they've always kind of looked down on the Bidens. And Joe is supposed to be, out there tonight graciously passing the baton to Kamala Harris. But according to reports, Biden is still stunned and he is pissed. That is a quote. Meanwhile, just outside, more angry anti-Israel protests. They are raging. We'll follow this all throughout the night. And even as Kamala Harris attempts to impede what is the anti-Semitic base, and in some cases pro-Hamas wing of her party, for 2 straight nights we have seen hateful chanting and, general chaos as tens of thousands are expected to gather all week. Well, we're going to get to my monologue in just a moment. But first, joining us, he's on the ground. He's outside of the convention. Our very own Mike Tobin is with us. Oh, I see a lot of cops behind him. Mike, what's going on the ground?
Well, it's kind of the tail end of the big demonstration. At least it looks that way. We mentioned the cops. About 100, 150 cops who are standing here at Union Park with a few of the demonstrators who remain. One of the things you can see that graffiti, the interviews left their mark before they left. They did cross some friction earlier in the day.
That show.
Video. There was a point where the outer perimeter fence, the anti-climb fence, they got 3 sections of that off, and they got in the inner row, I guess, between the outer fencing and the inner fencing. The Chicago cops formed up in numbers. They're light gear, I guess, with helmets and some body armor, but not. They pushed in. They pushed the demonstrators back out the very hole they created in the fence, and it got the situation under control, pretty much putting manpower in place of the fence. One person I did talk to today was flying the Hamas flag.
Did you hear that Tim Russert might have been because Tim Russert and what was his name? Peter Jennings.
Every Palestinian support Hamas, not just me. Every Palestinian support Hamas.
Support October 7th.
Oh,
October 7th.
October 7th, yes, I do. What's wrong with October 7th? You tell me.
Women and children.
What?
To murder.
What is this?
There were some arrests at the demonstration today. We saw some of them. Police don't have a hard number.
Oh, okay.
As far as the demonstration right now, you do have some of the
Thanks for the heads up.
anarchists hanging around. They're looking for something to do, but it looks like most of the people are going home. Sean.
All right, Mike Tubman, as always, you and tonight we're going to keep an eye on whatever demonstrations are outside of this building and take you there live if and when violence, and some are predicting, erupts. Now, keep in mind this is all taking place as Kamala friends and the state-run media mob are touting Kamala's so-called politics of joy. Okay, in reality, nothing really joyful about today's Democratic Party. The base, all that is comprised of virulent anti-Semites that don't love.
Well, right now, I'm not talking, but earlier I wasn't talking, but yeah, probably turn my microphone sensitivity a little bit again.
Is the only Democratic
It goes down automatically. I wish it wouldn't.
The party elites, frankly, humiliated Joe Biden, disenfranchised his voters, forced him to end his campaign. The truth is, there's nothing real or authentic about this convention.
I'll try to speak up.
Or the Harris Walls campaign.
Or just talk during the commercials.
Station is seemingly scripted. And in case you haven't noticed, the Harris campaign is trying to highlight Kamala eating Doritos in order to connect with normal folks like us. Take a look.
Ah, Dougie, there they are. Yeah, thank you.
What do you get?
Oh, there they are.
I do, and this is my go-to, the original nacho cheese.
Uh.
Now maybe she'll need another really super, size big bag if Donald Trump wins like she did in 2016. Oh, but she eats Doritos like all of us. But unlike the rest of us, Kamala had the gas station completely cleared of any and all customers, the people, the little people, as they say. We, the people, before she arrived, possibly to avoid any human interaction. And we saw the same thing at Pittsburgh Diner. You're going to love this. Customers, they were forced to leave the restaurant before Kamala Harris and Tim Walz arrived so the campaign could bring in their own audience. Why talk to people? Apparently, Kamala is so terrible at talking to people that is now forced to go extraordinary lengths never seen before to shield her from everyday people so she doesn't have to answer a real question or talk to a member of the press or actually do an interview. And she somehow still managed to produce one of her famous or infamous word salads. And take a look.
Our election is about understanding the importance of this beautiful country of ours in terms of what we stand for around the globe as a
she's so nervous she gets too angry.
As a democracy.
Yeah, I wonder if that's for security
there's a duality
or not.
To the
But
nature of
obviously,
democracy.
it's not.
On the one hand, incredible strength when it is intact. What it does for its people to protect and defend their rights, their liberty, their freedom. Incredibly strong and incredibly fragile.
Kamala without a teleprompter is a pretty scary sight for Democratic Party elites. Whoosh. And it's, not just the word salads. It's Kamala's radical beliefs that we have been showing you night after night after night. They're too far, for most Americans. And her campaign knows it, which is why they are trying desperately to get her to flip it, to flop it, to flail, and to change every stated position she's pretty much ever had. because top Democrats know that if America understands who she is against fracking, against drilling, defund, dismantle, no bail laws, Kamala Harris, let's decriminalize the borders, let free health care and housing and education to illegal immigrants. If in fact they know her position on the issues of the economy, Bidenomics is doing great, she said recently, but I'm going to deal with inflation on day one. Well, I thought inflation was transitory. I thought the border was secure. Why haven't you been to the border? Well, I haven't been to Europe either. They know if the American people know her real opinion, she will lose in a landslide if her beliefs are known. That's why, by the way, her website is scrubbed of all policy positions. But don't worry, let not your heart be troubled on Hannity.com. I have Kamala and Tim Walz in their own words. Now, the one original proposal that she announced, socialist price controls on groceries, she's against price gauging, is getting trashed on both sides of the aisle. Very harsh rebukes in both the New York Times and the Washington Post. But don't expect to hear any real policy discussions this week because this convention, of Kamala Harris, it is scripted to the T. And they went to great lengths to rehearse even a stop at a gas station and replace real people eating at a diner, at a restaurant. They have to go, let's bring in the people that are actors even or supporters. So you better believe the convention is going to be the most scripted, the most phony in DNC in human history. And Kamala, the con artist, well, the phoniest campaign we've ever seen. Smoke, mirrors, lies, deception, manipulation. And frankly, all of that is corrupt. At the moment, by the way, we expect Kamala Harris is going to take to the stage right behind me. And as a matter of fact,
here she comes.
They are doing
I
the
won't talk.
introduction. She's
They're
only
introducing
expected to
Kamala to
speak
come
for
out.
about 2.5 minutes. We'll carry that whopping 2.5 minutes straight from the teleprompter to your bedroom, living room, study, wherever you happen to be. All right, as we await Kamala, and this is our big introduction. Joining us now, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, is with us. We'll talk to you both before and after she speaks. Let me ask you about this issue of the Kamala whose words I've been playing every single day.
I think she was wearing purple at the gas station, but I'm not sure she's wearing purple tonight.
And the Kamala
She's
that
not
her
out
campaign
yet.
says is changing her position on every major issue. That sounds like she might have entered the building. Let's take a look. Kamala Harris has now entered the building. This is expected to be about a 2.5 minute speech, and we'll carry it live.
Good evening. It is so good to be with everyone this evening in this hall and everyone at home. This is going to be a great week. And I want to kick us off by celebrating our incredible President Joe Biden, who will be speaking tonight. Joe, thank you for your historic leadership, for your lifetime of service to our nation, and for all you will continue to do. We are forever grateful to you. Thank you, Joe. And looking out at everyone tonight, I see the beauty of our great nation. People in every corner of our country and every walk of life are here, united by our shared vision for the future of our country. And this November, we will come together and declare with one voice, as one people, we are moving forward. With optimism, hope, and faith, so guided by our love of country, knowing we all have so much more in common than what separates us. Let us fight for the ideals we hold dear, and let us always remember, when we fight, we win. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Good night, everyone.
To the brief appearance as the night and the convention kicks off here. And joining us now is no stranger. We're in Chicago. Is former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. All right, a lot of platitudes. Very expected. Great crowd reaction. The conventions in general, they're all the same in that regard. However, there's something very different going on here. And that is where I'm going with my first question. The Kamala Harris, who has taken the most radical positions on energy, on immigration, on law and order, on issues involving the economy and America's place in the world. And the Kamala Harris they're trying to remake before our very eyes. Will they be able to pull that off?
You know, that's why I think the speech she gave on Friday is so unbelievable. They want to move it to the center. They want her to eat everyday food like normal people. They want her to come out with platitudes. Fine. I thought that's a strategy. But then on Friday, she gets up and she gives the most radical economic speech ever given by a candidate for president, a nominee for president, a speech which has big government socialism all the way through it, even though only 16% of the country favors big government socialism, a speech which offers $1.7 trillion in additional spending, even though 80% of American people believe that that kind of spending guarantees more inflation. I mean, you can't understand up here.
Yeah, we got free market capitalism. I don't know how we can require places to have certain prices on stuff. Where else can you do that?
So radical that the New York Times and the Washington Post attacked the speech. And then turn around and say, you know, we're really not that kind of person.
Yeah, Doritos have yellow 5 in them, don't they?
The Friday economic speech.
Let me know if you can hear me okay over Newt Gingrich right now. He's talking right now. But I'll turn the microphone a little bit away.
Really, that was a first.
Because it'll probably pick up both things. Yeah. The companies will leave America, and yeah, I mean they'll outsource. They'll outsource what they, because that's what they do when they can't afford to hire and pay U.S. citizens.
A governor that wants legal driver's licenses
Oh yeah,
for
better
illegals.
start farming.
Like
Yeah.
Kamala supports free healthcare, free housing, education, and even a college education. Here's a guy that wouldn't lift a finger as Minneapolis was burning to the ground, and literally his family opened up the windows to their home so they could smell burning rubber during the rioting in the summer of 2020. Did nothing to really stop it. And on energy, they're both against fracking and drilling. I mean, huge in terms of the economy, and both big supporters of the
Yeah,
Green
that's
New Deal.
what they do in communist countries. Apparently, they've tried that before.
She sponsored Medicare for all, along with Bernie Sanders on both bills, that would eliminate private health insurance.
Yeah, I just don't get it. It's like common sense. Economists, if you study economy in school, it's very different than applying it, than application in practice. And what we've got here is like we've got a lot of people going to school to become economy professors. They just want to be a professor. So it's like professors teaching college students to become professors.
1988 at the Democratic Convention.
So everyone wants to just grow up to be a professor to teach other people so they can become college professors and teach others. They're not really doing it to get any practical experience in economy, in economics or sociology. I don't know. It's just.
His credits beyond the picture side. Waltz took over 30 student groups to communist China, mostly paid for by the Chinese government. Now, to what degree is Waltz's collectivism and, as one person described it, his malice tendencies? To what extent he going to China
Now,
because they were paying for it?
I'm
And
trying
to
to
what
stay on a
extent was
little
he
bit.
going to
Turn it down a
China
little bit.
because he really is that radical and that far to the left? And if you look at how anti-Catholic he was during COVID, how much he tightened down the state, but by the way, allowed more Americans to keep selling.
So here's my thing. Here's my thing about Kamala, Kamala or Kamala or Kamala, Koala. I think that was 818. What was that on T9? Oh no. Okay, let's see. But when she came out to do that speech, right? So she used a handheld microphone instead of, because there's different microphones. There's podium microphones, there's lapel mics, and there's the handheld. And she purposely hold. Oh, 8:18. That's what time it is. Oh, yeah.
Well, I think when people learn that Walsh was governor, at least 8 babies
You
died
know,
on the table without medical care because he was so radical that he believes not only an abortion on the last day, but he believes he should allow babies to die if the parents decide they don't want them. This guy is literally to the left of Harris, and Harris is to the left of Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. All right, Speaker Gingrich, we love having you. Thank you so much for being with us. Anyway, while the DNC paints a delightful picture of their brand new ticket, all is not well on the left, as Democratic strategist David Axelrod.
So I think that the reason Kamala Harris wanted a handheld microphone because she thought it would connect her to the audience or something. Because when you're using handheld, it's a little more casual, a little more formal, like informal, like a kind of like a stand-up comedian almost, you know. Because there's different There's also the Countryman, which is the Countryman brand microphone is one that comes down and hooks up your ear, and you can talk right into it. So you can use your hands to talk. She spoke for about a minute. And that's all she did. Here's Hannity. Some more Hannity.
Chicago, thanks a lot. You've abandoned us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I didn't get the invite, Sean. It's shocking, but I'm glad you're there for all of us. So good luck.
Good luck. Nice knowing you. Good luck. There were a couple of people that were pretty vocal, and all I said was, hello, very nice to meet you. Putting all of that aside. So I want to go over this challenge, and that is the real Kamala Harris. And anybody that has been watching my show on a regular basis knows that there is, I have never seen the volume of radical statements that have come out of a candidate and their running mate than with Kamala and Tim Walz. The problem is right now, John McLaughlin saying anywhere between 70 and 80% of the people they polled, they are not aware of that side of her. So they're going, and the media is not going to point it out. So that then becomes an issue for the campaign and for the RNC, right?
Well, that's exactly right. That's our job over the next 78 days, Sean. We have to tell the American people exactly who Kamala Harris is. And look, she just came out on stage there in front of the nation at the DNC, her first appearance, and told you absolutely nothing. It was actually kind of shocking to me. What I think people have at least learned thus far, if they don't know yet Kamala Harris's radical positions, Tim Walz's radical positions, they know that this party and these candidates, Sean, are very phony. They're very inauthentic. Look at Donald Trump. 2 days before our convention, he's shot in the head. He shows up at our convention. He's there every single day. He's there for all major speeches. This is a man who sometimes is transparent, some might say to us, but you never have to wonder who Donald Trump is, where he stands on anything, or what he's thinking, because he will tell you. On the other side of things, you have a completely phony party and completely phony candidates in Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I mean, the whole thing is crazy. You see the fact that they lied about Joe Biden for how long to us? Joe Biden's fine. Joe Biden's fine until Joe Biden is not fine. Now we all see what was going on there, of course. And then, you know, the idea that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are somehow going to do anything different.
Yeah, maybe they did it so that
folks, you've had Kamala Harris
so that will be later on the West Coast.
You put this person in the White House alongside her running mate
it will be like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on steroids. You're right. That's what we have to convince the American people over the next 78 days. Look out, because we have to tell them, you're right, Sean, the mainstream media will not do this for us. It is frightening. The fact that
It's not prime time. It's not 7 o'clock on the West Coast, but it's 8 o'clock.
no substance,
When
nothing
it,
on
it'll be
policy,
8 o'clock on the West Coast, and it's 10 o'clock here. So
communist playbooks. It's terrifying and
you
crazy.
probably want it closer to
we're
prime
gonna
time
make
on the
sure
West
American
Coast,
people know
maybe.
exactly who this woman is come November 5th.
From the day you took your position, a question that I have asked you regularly had to do with Republicans and a reluctance, a resistance to early voting, voting by mail, legal ballot harvesting.
Yeah, unless I saw that wrong. Unless I saw it wrong. It's I thought it was 11. She because it was Laura Ingraham talking about what time Biden was going on, and she said 11 Eastern. So that would be 10 Central, 9 p.m. Mountain Time, and 8 p.m. Pacific.
Where are we with early voting? Where are we with voting by mail? Where are we with ballot harvesting in the ground game?
Well, we want to convince every single Republican voter out there, you cannot wait, Sean, until election day. If we all wait until election day, it's too late.
Yeah, mine's bedtime 8 or 9. Yeah, outside of office hours. But remember, when he's awake, he's really on it. He's sharp as a tack, right? You know, between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. He's on it.
People that we have gotten on our volunteer team to be part of this program, protectthevote.com. If anyone wants to be part of it, we want you to come help us. But you're right, we cannot continue to play the game the same way, Sean. We have to do ballot harvesting everywhere it's legal. We have to do ballot chasing. We have to have canvassers out across this country engaging with low propensity voters. And that is exactly what you're going to see out of this
10 and 4, yeah. 6 hours a day. You know, my thought was maybe the presidency should be something like an ambulance driver, because ambulances they work 2 days on, 3 days off or something, and so someone should always be the president. I think that would be for the good of the country. You know, someone's always it's a round the clock job. That should be. It pays $400,000 a year, which is a modest salary, I suppose. In terms, we would consider some CEOs of companies get paid $10 million a year, but they say that judges and all this politicians have to be, they should have more than one president, because the president is that's the beauty of this country. It's a laboratory. 50 states that are firewall, but you have the 3-in-1 president. He's not only the chief executive officer, he's the CEO of the country. He is the commander-in-chief of the civilian commander-in-chief, of the armed forces, and he's also the head of state. And he's like 3-in-1. Whereas in England, don't they have queen for the head of state? The prime minister is the CEO of the country, and then and they both kind of do the armed forces. You're right. A day and a night shift for president. I like that.
Before AOC is expected to take the stage, we'll check in with that. Former 2024 GOP
Vivek Ramaswamy.
You've been very focused in almost every interview that we have that Republicans need to focus on issues.
For me, Vivek was always very positive. He was using uniting and unifying language. I like that about him.
Republicans need to focus on it would be the border, law and order. It would be energy, it would be the economy, and America's role in the world. Okay, you have 3. But there's one other thing. America still does not know everything that she's said. I've been asking every guest tonight that question. And the poll that John McLaughlin put out shocked me. People from 70 to 84% don't know where she has.
Oh, you think Vivek was a plant? Oh.
Well, isn't that as important as getting out?
So.
Exposing that?
Absolutely. And let me be a little helpful on that, Sean. She has sought to abolish private health insurance. If you have private health insurance, she has said she wants to end it for a single-payer healthcare system. She has favored the Green New Deal, said she wanted to end the filibuster in the Senate to ram that through. A ban on fracking, she stood for that. A ban on offshore drilling, she stood for that. So you name it, Sean. This is a left-wing policy playbook that she ran on for U.S. president in the year 2020. And I think we need to be going harder after.
Yeah, he did own a big pharmaceutical company. Yeah, that's how he got his money.
Just by a little bit. I heard Newt Gingrich talking about that Michael Dukakis analogy. I think this could be that on steroids if we hit her hard for her policy record. And the reality is she's now trying to flip-flop. Well, the reality is people won't fall for it because her actions speak louder than her words.
Yeah, and really, Trump was the only one that could self-fund his campaign. He was self-funded, so maybe, you know, there's that. Yeah, who's funding who? Yeah, who's donating to who?
Americans need to see, and once they do, they're not going to go for it.
One of the things that might be a little different than when Dukakis ran is this: they didn't have early voting this early, and it wasn't this widespread in the country. I don't like it. How is it that we have early voting beginning in 30 days? So many things can happen between the time people may vote and actual election day that could significantly impact people's decisions. I mean, look at when Hunter Biden's laptop came out that was very real, that the media wouldn't cover and big tech wouldn't cover. But that's called an October surprise that could alter an election's outcome. That's one of the reasons I don't understand they move these elections earlier and earlier.
So let me be crystal clear. Donald Trump has made clear that we want single-day voting on Election Day as a national holiday with paper ballots and government-issued ID to match the vote file. That's a reasonable policy, Sean, that most Americans agree on, black or white, and even left.
I have a full-size keyboard, and I'm messing up typing.
So are we playing on the level playing field there? No, we're not. But we have to play within the rules we have and win decisively in order to change those rules to the system that we actually need. So that requires Republicans at home.
So the comments coming through here, you can see them obviously. Yeah. So Trump's son is seeing Gavin Newsom's ex-wife, and then Trump's daughter goes to parties with Kim Kardashian.
They're trying to sell. You want change in the country? November's your chance. But we can't just win by a little bit.
Who is that on the screen here? Who is that? I don't even know who these people are.
That's what we need to aim for. That's what we need to change. But if we do, change is only 90 days away.
How does she get away with no interviews, no gaggles, no press conferences, and her campaign just issuing statements contradicting every position she's ever taken?
People on the, I don't know. They keep cutting to these people here. I'm not sure who they are. Are they just randos? I don't even recognize them. Is that? I don't recognize those people on TV right now. Oh. See. So my thing was I used to be like, okay. Harris's husband, stepdaughter. Okay. So my thing was when people would tell me, "Oh, you need to know who these people are because they're so famous," and my thought, what I would always say to that was, "If you're so famous, how is it my fault I don't know who you are? Maybe you're not famous enough, you know." So I mean, because yeah.
That's what the Republican Party is going to deliver. Vote through Donald Trump in the White House and majorities in the Senate and the House. That's what Americans want, and I believe they do. We will win this election decisively.
One of the
Tell me, can you? Is this a good balance? You can hear Vivek and Hannity, and then hear me when I start talking. Is that a good balance?
I don't claim to be a campaign advisor in any way. However, if you
I don't know if there's a lag because I can see the chat thread here, but
and you were going to take charge of what ads, what messaging would be most effective. I'll tell you what my idea is, and you tell me if I'm right, or you tell me if you have a better idea.
Oh, thank you.
I would be running ads
thank you, Liberty.
Kamala in her own words on fracking, on drilling, on immigration, on law and order, on foreign policy. Those would be the ads, and Tim Walz a running mate as well.
Yeah, man acts crazy with kids, but moms.
Ads in your mind that you would run.
But not moms. I just did with the baby on the back.
That is spot on.
Oh, really?
Like, we have to show the American people what views she and Walz have actually favored in advance. Let me
And those baby things on. Now, was it one of those things that like is a trailer, like it hooks onto the back of the bike, like you're towing it, or was it actually like a seat that's just mounted to the behind the seat of the guy's bike?
Even those who disagree with us, we stand for the rule of law. I can speak to this as a kid of immigrants. That means that you only come into this country legally.
You probably don't hear what I'm saying until a little bit after, so I've seen what you typed almost instantly. But yeah, was it? Wow. Because have you seen the? There's a seat behind it. Oh wow. Yeah. Either way, have you seen that? Well, I'm going to use an expletive. Jackass, the show Jackass, where he's using a fake doll and it's like a prank. He's doing a gag, and he's got a doll in the back seat of the bike carrier, and he purposely crashes the bike to get people to freak out. Oh my gosh, there was a baby on the bike. It was a Jackass with Johnny Knoxville.
Sponsored that with Bernie Sanders, or the Green New Deal in the U.S. And she co-sponsored that with Bernie Sanders in the U.S. Senate, $93 trillion.
Oh yeah, Johnny Knoxville did that. And he purposely crashed his bike with a little baby carrier on it with a doll. It was a baby doll, and then they've done Jamie Kennedy. They said a lot of the gags. Yeah, and they say that Jamie Kennedy was the one that actually invented that, the Jamie Kennedy experiment. And he's the one that actually originally came out with that, and then Johnny Knoxville stole it, or I guess, just copied him. Yeah, I've seen that. Or maybe that was Tom Green. I can't remember now, but it was either Tom Green, Johnny Knoxville, or Jamie Kennedy. Yeah.
That some Kamala Harris is some kind of centrist candidate. But the best evidence they can't get away from that is that AOC and the likes of her are actually part of their own speaker lineup, not just on the outside of the building at the protests, but also inside the building itself. And the thing about Kamala Harris to understand, John, is that she's not just ideological.
Oh, really?
It's
Oh my
she
gosh.
brings the need to that far left.
So
Her
one
first
day you were holding
presidential
a doll,
was who was she
getting
gonna make the
groceries,
vice
put it in a car, and you threw the doll in the back. Oh, you screamed,
president?
and she thought you had a real baby. Oh wow.
So whether or not you think she has
Oh
an
my
ideology,
gosh.
and for all I know, she may not, she's a cog in a wheel, it shows who actually is pulling her strings. And it is that far left progressive wing of the Democratic Party. That's what ought to be most concerning.
Well, people got to remember the Senate, she was more liberal, more
Yeah,
left
that,
than
that would
Bernie
be funny.
Sanders, and that says
I think
a
it's
lot.
funny. I mean, no one got hurt. Yeah, that's funny that someone was watching you long enough to think you had a real baby, though.
With us. Ari, great to have you. We appreciate you being with us. Let's get your take on
So,
all
tell me, is there a little delay from after I see your comment, from when you type the comment, and then when I say something about it? Because you're probably not seeing it instantly, but I see your comments instantly. But you hear me when you hear what I say, probably a little bit after. It's probably delay. Yeah. Oh. Today you opened the lid with a soda lid, and it said, "Always keep fighting." And yeah, I guess fighting doesn't necessarily mean physical violence. Oh, good. It seems pretty fast. I just saw it. Cool.
Is that she's dangerously liberal. I thought when they came to that right away, it was a great way to summarize every position she is taking.
Okay.
Medicare for all, ban private
That's fair.
people's guns, eliminate fracking, fight against natural gas, all the different decisions she took, which I have yet to hear her repudiate any of them. She's dangerously liberal. And then when you heard her this week talking about how all that massive government spending when she wants it at price control.
Okay.
Therefore, it's no price. Well, this is dangerously liberal. I always say that's the basis they should home in on. I agree. I say radical, extreme, and dangerous. All right, AOC, take it to the stage. We're not going to go with the whole, but we will dip in.
For your energy, thank you, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, for your vision.
Oopsie.
Thank you. Thank you, Chicago, for your energy. Thank you, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, for your vision. you, Joe Biden, for your leadership. You know, 6 years ago, I was taking omelet orders as a waitress in New York City. I didn't have health insurance. My family was fighting off foreclosure. And we were struggling with bills after my dad passed away unexpectedly from cancer. Like millions of Americans, we were just looking for an honest shake. And we were tired of a cynical politics that seemed blind to the realities of working people. It was then, only through the miracles of democracy and community, that the good people of the Bronx and Queens chose someone like me to elect them in Congress. And America, in my heart, I know from that same cloth of hope and aspiration, we will also elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as President and Vice President of the United States of America. I am here tonight because America has before us a rare and precious opportunity. In Kamala Harris, we have a chance to elect a president who is for the middle class because she is from the middle class. She understands the urgency of rent checks and groceries and prescriptions. She is as committed to our reproductive and civil rights as she is to taking on corporate greed. And she is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and bringing hostages home. In Kamala Harris, I see a leader who understands. I see a leader with a real commitment to a better future for working families. And Chicago, we have to help her win. Because we know that Donald Trump would sell this country for $1 if it meant lining his own pockets and greasing the palms of his Wall Street friends. And I, for one, am tired of hearing about how a two-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day to lift working people out from boots to breathe, traveling on our way of life. The truth is, Don, you cannot love this country if you only fight for the wealthy and big business. To love this country is to fight for its people, all people, working people, everyday Americans like bartenders and factory workers and fast food cashiers who punch a clock and are on their feet all day in some of the toughest jobs out there. You know, ever since I got elected, Republicans have attacked me by saying that I should go back to bartending. But let me tell you, I'm happy to any day of the week because there is nothing wrong with working for a living. Imagine having leaders in the White House who understand that. Leaders like Kamala and Tim. But Chicago, just because the choice is clear to us does not mean that the path will be easy. Over the next 78 days, we will have to pour every ounce, every minute, every moment into making history on November 5th. We cannot send Kamala and Tim to the White House alone. Together, we must also elect strong Democratic majorities in the House and in the Senate so that we can deliver on an ambitious agenda for the people. Because if you are a working parent trying to afford rent and childcare, Kamala is for you. If you are a senior who had to go back to work because your retirement didn't stretch far enough, Kamala is for you. If you're an immigrant family just starting your American story, Kamala is for you. America, when we knock on our neighbor's door, organize our communities, and elect Kamala Harris to the presidency on November 5th, we will send a loud message that the people of this nation will not go back. We choose a new path and open the door to a new day, one that is for the people and by the people. Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless. God bless you all.
AOC. That's AOC on the stage. About 6 minutes. 6 minutes. We welcome our good friend, our dear friend. She's got 4 great shows here at Fox. Of course, the hit show, The Five, and I'm watching America's Newsroom every morning.
Are you?
Of course I am.
Thank you.
And I'm going to be on with you guys on Thursday.
I know, I'm excited.
And our friend Charlie Hurt is here as well. This is important to me. I was watching AOC, and I thought it was important to run it because I used to say about AOC.
Well, maybe.
She was the Speaker
Okay.
of the
So
House,
maybe.
and Nancy was Speaker of the
Maybe it looks
Parliament.
like I see your comments
And
delayed
this is
because
now come
maybe.
full circle. Think about this, because here is
Oh.
the sponsor of the $93 trillion radical communist socialist, use whatever name
Really?
you want, Green New Deal,
She's-
and Kamala.
I thought he had a
co-sponsored that
nickname
bill in the
for
Senate
Kamala.
with Bernie Sanders.
Or you mean Ocasio
co-sponsored
Cortez? Oh,
Medicare
AOC.
for
Okay, I see your
universal
I see your
healthcare,
message here.
which would eliminate
Oh,
private
hmm.
health insurance. That is this.
I've seen some memes. I still he never friended me back on Facebook, but I still follow him, and I've seen some of his posts, and he's got some photoshopped pictures with AOC's head on someone else's body.
They listened to her, and she is a great opening act.
Because I was a bartender too. Maybe one day they'll listen to me.
I was a great waitress as well, but it also seemed very disconnected to reality. She was talking as if Biden and Harris hadn't been in office
AOC, yeah,
for the last
he had
3.5 years. She was talking about people having to go back to work because they couldn't afford things. I'm like, yeah, well, when did that happen? Right? And she's talking about immigrant families starting out and how Kamala Harris is their first love. Yes, we know. Yes, that's absolutely true. She also is talking about how non-college educated workers, like, well, Donald Trump has all those voters now, and he has the rural vote. They are now the party of the elite. And then she said, President Trump just wants to do things for his friends on Wall Street. As far as I can tell, he doesn't have any friends on Wall Street.
That's a good point.
I don't understand what she was saying. It was a great speech, but it didn't make any sense.
It's a great analysis. Well said. I think that it tapped into something that's really true, and that is.
If I could put a heart emoji in the comment section, I would, but I don't know how. Not from my computer. Let's see here.
People out of a diner
so
that they can put their friends in their place rather than talk to everyday people. And I love diners. When I was done closing the bar at 4:30 and cleaning it, when I was 17, 18, 19 years old, I would head straight to the diner and read the local newspaper. But the point is, everything about this is phony. Everything about her is now phony. It is contrived. It is not real. It is the opposite of everything she has now stated and stood for the last 5 years. How is that?
Yeah, and it's never more comical than when she says, on day one.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute, I did the math, and it's day 1,460, I think, that you'll be president if you win. And you're right. The last thing that she wants, the vice president wants to do is to run on a record. And I agree with you, Dana, that AOC is a wonderful speaker. She's a great hype person. She had everybody on the edge of their seats. But I think that it's almost a little bit of a problem because Kamala Harris does not command that kind of attention in a speech. She can read a teleprompter very well, but it's not the same as what we just saw right there. I think that's a poor comparison for the vice president.
But wasn't it kind of unimaginable when AOC came up with the New Deal? But there was a part of it that laughed. I'm not right.
Some of these speeches are trite. And I can't. Maybe that's why I don't talk like that, because I think it's just trite. It's trite, and it's just kind of contrived, I think is the word, because
and Tim Walz.
it's like too scripted. It's too melodramatic.
Was one of the first
You know.
these sound bites for her own. It's the most effective thing. Which got to be out there trying to get the media is not going to do it for them.
Yeah. Name calling. When you resort to name calling, it's a low tactic. It's a very last resort. You know, people don't have any substance. You know. I agree. Stop the insults. And personal attacks. If you can't debate the issues, yeah, classy, yeah. Some of this is just not in good taste. Some things are just not in good taste. It's just a low blow. It's cheap shots. Stand on policy and record. I agree. Yeah, experience. You know, who's the candidate in this race that can say they've got experience being the president? Well, that would only be Trump. That's kind of funny. Well, you know, yeah, when someone's part of it is when you watch TV and you see someone say something smart, you say, well, I don't have to think for myself because someone smart already said that. And I agree with them. The other thing is that things like Facebook and TikTok will absorb opposition, because when you click like or angry or dislike, downvote something, comment on something, that's absorbing your opposition. So you're not going to go protest. You're not going to go take a megaphone outside your city hall. You're just going to comment and think, oh, I did my part. So the purpose of Facebook was twofold. You know, it would handicap socially our young people, and it would also absorb opposition to policies in the government. You know, it's been pretty effective.
You lay out in this report that shows that they did sell access to their office, correct?
I sure did. And again, not my words, not Sean Hannity's words, the words of Hunter Biden's business partner. The brand was Joe Biden.
Well, here comes Hillary. Is this Hillary?
Meetings with the people that they were doing business with, these foreign entities, and were given all kinds of money. But you're right. When Donald Trump wins, which I believe is going to happen, he's our next president. This report is still there for the House of Representatives to look at. And we've said all along, we think the case is compelling against Joe Biden and his family. But
I agree. We're arguing about the wrong things a lot of the time.
We voted to enter an impeachment inquiry. We're obligated to produce a report, which we did.
All right, Jim Jordan, Congressman Ohio, and the head of the House Judiciary Committee. Hillary Rodham Clinton has taken to the stage. Let's dip in and hear what she has to say.
Here's Hillary.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, my fellow Americans. Thank you so much. No. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. There's a lot of energy in this room, just like there is across the country. Something is happening in America. You can feel it. Something we've worked for and dreamed of for a long time. First, though, let's salute President Biden. He has been democracy's champion at home and abroad. He brought dignity, decency, and competence back to the White House. And he showed what it means to be a true patriot. Thank you, Joe Biden, for your lifetime of service and leadership. And now we are writing a new chapter in America's story. You know, my mother Dorothy was born right here in Chicago before women had the right to vote. That changed 104 years ago yesterday. Think about it. Tennessee became the final state to ratify the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. The state legislature was deadlocked until one lawmaker's mother, a widow who read 3 newspapers a day, sent a letter to her son. No more delays, she wrote. Give us the vote. And since that day, every generation has carried the torch forward. In 1972, a fearless Black congresswoman named Shirley Chisholm she ran for president. And her determination let me and millions of others dream bigger, not just because of who she was, but because of who she fought for. Working parents, poor children, the last, the least, and the lost. In 1984, I brought my daughter to see Geraldine Ferraro, the first woman nominated for vice president. If we can do this, Jerry said, we can do anything. And then there was 2016, when it was the honor of my life to accept our party's nomination for president. And nearly 66 million Americans voted for a future where there are no ceilings on our dreams.
Afterwards, we refused to give up on America. Millions marched, many ran for office. We kept our eyes on the future. Well, my friends, the future is here. I wish my mother and Kamala's mother could see us. They would say, keep going. Shirley and Jerry would say, keep going. Women fighting for reproductive health care are saying, keep going. Families building better lives, parents stretching to afford childcare, young people struggling to pay their rent. They're all asking us to keep going. So, with faith in each other and joy in our hearts, let's send Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to the White House. The story of my life and the history of our country is that progress is possible, but not guaranteed. We have to fight for it and never, ever give up. There is always a choice. Do we push forward or pull back? Come together as we the people, or split into us versus them? That's the choice we face in this election. Kamala has the character, experience, and vision to lead us forward. I know her heart and her integrity. We both got our start as young lawyers, helping children who were abused and neglected. That kind of work changes a person. Those kids stay with you. Kamala carries with her the hopes of every child she protected, every family she helped, every community she served. So as president, she will always have our backs, and she will be a fighter for us. She will fight to lower costs for hardworking families, open the doors wide for good-paying jobs, and yes, she will restore abortion rights nationwide. As a prosecutor, Kamala locked up murderers and drug traffickers. She will never rest in defense of our freedom and safety. Donald Trump fell asleep at his own trial, and when he woke up, he made his own kind of history. The first person to run for president with 34 felony convictions. As vice president, Kamala sat in the Situation Room. We also know, as vice president, Kamala sat in the Situation Room and stood for America's values. I know what it takes, and I can tell you, as commander-in-chief, Kamala won't disrespect our military and our veterans. She reveres our Medal of Honor recipients. She won't be sending love letters to dictators. She will defend democracy and our Constitution and will protect America from enemies, foreign and domestic. Think about it. The Constitution says the president's job is to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Those are the words of our founders. Take care. Just look at the candidates. Kamala cares about kids and families, cares about America. Donald only cares about himself. On her first day in court, Kamala said 5 words that still guide her. Kamala Harris, for the people. That is something that Donald Trump will never understand. So it is no surprise, is it, that he is lying about Kamala's record. He's mocking her name and her laugh. Sounds familiar. But we have him on the run now. So, no matter what the polls say, we can't let up. We can't get driven down crazy conspiracy rabbit holes. We have to fight for the truth. We have to fight for Kamala as she will fight for us. Because you know what? It still takes a village to raise a family, heal a country, and win a campaign. And America needs every one of us, our energy, our talents, our dreams. We're not just electing a president, we're uplifting our nation. We're opening the promise of America wide enough for everyone. Together, we put a lot of cracks in the highest, hardest glass ceiling. And tonight, so close to breaking through once and for all, I want to tell you what I see through all those cracks and why it matters for each and every one of us. What do I see? I see freedom. I see the freedom to make our own decisions about our health, our lives, our loves, our families. The freedom to work with dignity and prosper, to worship as we choose or not, to speak our minds freely and honestly. I see freedom from fear and intimidation, from violence and injustice, from chaos and corruption. I see the freedom to look our children in the eye and say, in America, you can go as far as your hard work and talent will take you, and mean it. And you know what? On the other side of that glass ceiling is Kamala Harris raising her hand and taking the oath of office as our 47th President of the United States. My friends, when a barrier falls for one of us, it falls. It falls and clears the way for all of us. So for the next 78 days, we need to work harder than we ever have. We need to beat back the dangers that Trump and his allies pose to the rule of law and our way of life. Don't get distracted or complacent. Talk to your friends and neighbors. Volunteer. Be proud champions for the truth and for the country that we all love. I want my grandchildren and their grandchildren to know I was here at this moment, that we were here, and that we were with Kamala Harris every step of the way. This is our time, America. This is when we stand up. This is when we break through. The future is here. It's in our grasp. Let's go win it.
This is my song. Take my life song.
2016 Democratic nominee, former Secretary of State, former Senator from the state of New York, former First Lady Hillary Clinton, talking about, again, the cracks in the glass ceiling, and she can see them. She says, this is our time. Talking about Kamala Harris. Also said Donald Trump is distorting her record and mocking her laugh, something she finds familiar from 2016. Good evening. I'm Brett Baer.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum. Welcome to Democracy 24 coverage of the Democratic National Convention. We are live here at the United Center in Chicago, where they are getting things off to a pretty lively start. We heard from AOC a short time ago. We just heard from Hillary Clinton. Obviously, she was the last woman who tried to beat Donald Trump, and she did not succeed in that quest. She's here to cheer on Kamala Harris tonight in hopes that she can do the same. At one point, the crowd started chanting, "Lock him up." I mean, that's also a familiar refrain that she remembers from last time around. We've got a great panel alongside us once again here. Britt Hume, Dana Perino, and Harold Ford Jr. Britt, we just heard from the former First Lady, former Secretary of State, former candidate for the presidency, Hillary Clinton.
A familiar voice took me back to 2016 and beyond. Not a place I was necessarily eager to go, but there it was. And so it does establish one thing, that there are still places in America where Hillary Clinton can go and receive a rousing reception. I'm not sure there are very many left, but this is one of them. So she got it.
You know, earlier, Harold, we had Kamala Harris, the vice president, come out, a little surprise address to tee off the night. She said this is a night about realizing and recognizing President Joe Biden, and said there's a lot to do going forward.
He will be, President Biden will be the focus of the evening. I hope in his message this evening that he is less contentious and confrontational and is more cheerful and constructive about what he accomplished and why this race is so important. I think a lot of people have tried it tonight. I was struck, Brett, as I listened tonight. Remember the Republican events? You had 4 nights, you had 4 different themes each of those nights, and they seemed to really, really hew to those themes. Tonight is Joe Biden, and we'll see here these next few speeches if they really begin to set him up to come tonight to hand that baton off to Kamala Harris.
Yeah, we had themes, and the theme tonight is what happened to Joe Biden. I mean, tonight is about the extraordinary events that we have seen over the past 4 weeks. Joe Biden should have been the big Thursday night speaker here, Dana, but he's relegated to Monday night, and we're told he's going to be up and out of here right after he speaks.
The morning after the debate in June, Kamala Harris went on all the shows in the morning to defend Joe Biden and said he had a bad night, but he is the best person to be the president for the next 4 years. 2 weeks later, not even that, he was out. He was out because Nancy Pelosi said, "You are not going to destroy this party on my watch." Apparently now their lifelong friendship is at a bit of an impasse, as you can imagine. But what I thought was interesting about the Hillary Clinton speech is there's a lot of women in this room tonight, maybe not watching, but a lot of people in this room tonight thought she should be the first woman president. And that she was pretty gracious and enthusiastic in saying, let's do this for Kamala Harris. She's a good friend of Joe Biden as well. But just think, 6 weeks ago, we had stories about how there were donors of the Democratic Party who did not think she should continue to be on the ticket if he wasn't going to be on the ticket. And now you have this entire room all saying, we are for her. absolutely for her. And I thought that her speech was good. AOC's speech was good. There was so much of it that was just like nonsensical to me. But for this crowd, for this room, getting them ready for the next 78 days, they're doing a good job tonight.
Britt, what is the purpose, do you think, of this week? There is tight polls. Independents and moderates, they really want to try to go after them. But there is a big pull from the progressive part of this party. AOC getting that speaking position, one of the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, we should say, Congresswoman, is one of those indications.
And I think it's reflected as well in the fact that we don't have any detailed policy positions to speak of from Kamala Harris. We know, not from her, but from aides, that she's apparently in the process of abandoning positions she's taken that were probably too far to the left for national consumption.
From 2019.
And maybe beyond. Whether she herself will do that in her remarks remains to be seen. But what I think this night reflects in this event in the place where she now stands, Kamala Harris now stands, is that Democrats are pretty good at making an emergency into an opportunity. And as you heard me say earlier, Brett, they had an emergency in 2016 when Bernie Sanders was about to run away from the nomination, and they turned to Joe Biden, who had lost everywhere in that primary season until the South Carolina came along. They got him through South Carolina with a big boost from James Clyburn, who is speaking right now as we speak here. And he went on, party fell in behind him, won the nomination, won the presidency against Donald Trump. Now it's 4 years later. Suddenly they had an emergency when Joe Biden proved incapable of carrying on. It was pretty clear to anybody in their right mind that he couldn't possibly couldn't win, and certainly couldn't serve out another 4 years. So in the emergency, they turned to Kamala Harris. And what happened both times? The Democratic Party has been described as a party when it comes to nominating presidents that falls in love. The Republicans are always sort of as a party that falls in line. Well, these Democrats, both this year and 4 years ago, fell in line pretty quickly behind somebody who appeared nowhere near getting ready to be nominated. Both Biden didn't, and Kamala Harris certainly didn't. And now here we are.
Harold, today it was written that President Biden is still a little bit in shock and a little bit angry about what happened over the course of the last few weeks. And I guess one of the questions is, what can he accomplish tonight to bring the party back together? Are there any voters who are saying, I'm so upset about what happened to Joe Biden, I'm going to stay home, I'm not going to vote?
I don't think so. I think I read some of those reports. I'm not persuaded by those reports. I think that Joe Biden recognized a lot of what Britt just shared there. Had he performed better in that debate, we'd be having a different conversation today. Don't get me wrong. I think he wanted to be on this stage Thursday night accepting this nomination and battling in November. But I think he understands that the things he's fought for and achieved over the last 4 years and throughout his career, a lot of that was at stake. And if he didn't, and he lost.
How about now?
He lost. Democrats would
I think there is a delay.
I think for Kamala Harris, Rick said something also about the substance. There's not enough.
I not only turned down the tablet volume.
Tonight, Joe Biden saying what they have
yeah, it probably is
together,
loud.
Going to continue is an important first stop. He's got to be cheerful. He can't
I got you.
like he's upset about it. Even
It's probably different now. I probably got it better now.
With the business of populating what we're going to do as a party, what she's going to do as president, and how we're going to make the lives of everyday Americans better. The only thing I'm struck a little bit about that, I wish we were talking more about people and talking more about how we're going to make lives better. And hopefully Joe Biden does a lot of that in the final speech tonight.
I said there's a lot about Kamala Harris is one, not former President Trump. And a lot of this race is about running against Donald Trump the person. And two, she's not Joe Biden, and it's a fresh face, and the party is relieved to have somebody in the game.
Okay. I think this should do it. I think I can strike a balance between the volume of the TV, the news, and myself. And I've just the microphones are here. This is by the way, it's an Elgato Wave 3 microphone. They're not paying me anything to say that. This is an Elgato face cam. And so apparently, Biden's not going to be coming on until another 45 minutes.
Thank you, sir. See you out the door. Donald Trump has a challenge in many ways. The media is not going to help him prosecute the
case against her. She is figuring out a way to define herself in a way that is just amorphous. Like
You think other nights will be crazier whenever Biden is far away?
She said,
I see.
if you are a person who had to come out of retirement because you couldn't afford your grocery prices, then Kamala's the one for you. And I thought, she's been there for 3 years. It's in the title, Biden-Harris administration. But for some reason, partly because of the media attention, and partly because this whole crowd is in here, they're saying she is different, she is unique, and she was not responsible for all of those things. I just say one quick thing.
I wonder how long he'll speak.
For the fact that in the second breath after he dropped out, he endorsed her, and he shortened this process dramatically. A lot of people wanted it to go on.
I think this party likes Joe Biden. I think people are going to be genuine in the response he's going to get tonight. Remember, he's been in politics for 40 plus years. So we know him, we like him. But Britt said it best. He probably couldn't win in the fall. And there's an acknowledgement in this room. And he acknowledged it too by saying, I'm not going to run. So I think there's genuine affection for him.
All right, let's check in with Bill Hemmer. He is down on the floor. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Guys, good evening to you. We are on the far corner of the arena here in Chicago. Stage left as you're looking at it, listening to the commentary on behalf of all of you. I'll tell you guys, when the Democrats turn the page, they turn it hard and they turn it fast. To date, there are 4 times as many mentions of Kamala Harris than there are of Joe Biden. And at the current rate, the way this program is running, there's a chance now that Joe Biden may not be on the stage before the clock passes 11 o'clock on the East Coast. And you just wonder now, he landed at 3 o'clock this afternoon. His schedule was to be wheels up by midnight local time in Chicago, which would keep him on the ground here for a grand total of 9 hours. And that's it. And he's gone, and he's out of town. And you wonder by the end of this convention how diminished this president might be after his party is giving somewhat of a long goodbye. And frankly, it feels to me like they've got a hard time saying it. Couple observations from down here on the floor. I can tell you a lot of USA signs from time to time. What's not visible to me are protests over Gaza. Remember 8 years ago, the last time Democrats got together at a convention, it was Philadelphia. Hillary Clinton was the candidate.
Did you just hear Bill Hemmer say Air Force One is going to be in Chicago for just a total of 8 hours? Because
that was later nullified by Donald Trump when he won and became president in January 2017. Those were the Bernie supporters in Philadelphia, men and women who did not want that trade deal passed. And you think about the conflict.
He's going to speak, and he's going to be out of there by midnight.
It's far from a trade deal. It's about life and death.
He got there at like 3 o'clock today, and he's going to leave. He spends less than a day in one city, in every city, you know.
Over the course of the next 4 days. Talked to a Democratic insider a bit earlier today. He said, we're back in the game now. We felt like we were back on our heels, but now we feel like we are on our toes. Another insider told me a few days ago, he said, we are out with the old and in with the new. And I said, is it that easy that you can flip a switch that easily and turn your attention? He said, man, we want to win in 2024. The debate was 53 days ago. Biden dropped out 29 days ago. The long goodbye continues, guys, and we'll wait here in Chicago for Joe Biden to be on stage perhaps 30 minutes or 45 minutes from now. Back upstairs.
Wow, they're running about 25, 30 minutes behind. Bill, thank you.
All right, let's bring in the rest
All
of
right,
our
did you hear that? Bill
panel.
Hemmer said they're running 25, 30 minutes behind.
To have both of you with us. Kellyanne,
Biden might not even take the stage. Did you hear that?
there now, your thoughts on what we've seen so far
Because they want wheels up, gear up from Air Force One to be taking off before midnight.
I don't understand why he's speaking so late, if at all. Let's not forget when people give him an ovation here, they're not applauding his legacy or his service or even his presidency necessarily. They're applauding his exit. And I think that obviously this whole process has been undemocratic, but for Joe Biden, it's been fairly undignified as well. They've stripped him of his presidency. They stripped him of his honor. The way he was treated is pretty untenable. And we were reminded earlier that I think it was Dana that mentioned it was Kamala Harris who went on all the shows after the debate and said Joe Biden had a bad night, but he's a great president, etc. There's somebody else who did that. His name was Barack Obama. He came out with a tweet shortly after that debate and said, we all know, we all have bad nights, we all have bad debates. Barack Obama knows something about that. So this whiplash, I think it's staying power for the swing voters watching, for the independents in those 7 states, for the 21 or 22 counties that are going to decide who the next president is. Hillary Clinton, somebody should tell her that she's not the nominee. It's not 2016. I think that it was part a little bit of regret and revival for her, and part looking at the future. But you can't help but think tonight you're also looking at two political dynasties, the Bidens and the Clintons, that are all but gone. These are relics of the past Democratic Party. One last thing: when Kamala speaks of late, she sounds like a challenger making promises, not an incumbent bragging about performance. And until she actually hooks herself into the better parts of this White House, as they say it, I don't think she's going to sway the people who she needs to sway. She's got 98% of Democrats now, and Trump's still beating her in Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, according to the CBS poll, tied in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. So we have a lot of runway before us, but I think the fundamentals still slightly favor him. She'll get a big bump this week. She's got to do more than come out for 90 seconds and rally the crowd.
That was just Luke Skywalker looking on there. Carl, Politico has this write-up about this speech tonight saying this. The speech from Biden will be emotional, according to one senior Democrat. People will cry. But then asked if anyone will feel regret for pushing Biden aside, the same Democrat said unequivocally, no.
Yeah, no, there's a palpable sense of relief among this crowd. In fact, you saw that in Hillary Clinton's speech, she was sort of low energy at the beginning, but the more she focused on Kamala Harris and what that represented for the future of the Democratic Party, the more energetic the crowd got. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Tonight is going to be a bittersweet moment for Joe Biden. They're going to treat him with respect, but they're going to be grateful that he came and spoke late in the evening and that he's going to be gone. And that's going to determine, that sense of relief is going to determine a lot about this convention. For example, I don't think we're going to see a lot of policy because, and we're certainly not going to see any concern by the left of the Democratic Party about the flip-flops that Kamala Harris has been involved in. I was against fracking, and now I'm for fracking. I was for Medicare for all. Now I'm against Medicare for all. There's not going to be any of that concern because, again, they are relieved that they were facing certain disaster and an electoral defeat, and now they think they have a shot at it. And as a result, I think we're also going to see a big emphasis on the persona and the personal values and sort of vision of Kamala Harris. We're not going to be sitting here with, a lot of detailed, big policy issues that are going to be driving the convention. It's going to be, she was a prosecutor, she was the attorney general, here's her, here are the skills she brings to the fray.
So Karl Rove speaking now. Can you hear Karl Rove all right?
They care about winning. And Brent made the observation at the beginning that it used to be Republicans fall in line and Democrats fall in love. Well, Democrats are both falling in love and falling in line tonight.
Yeah, Brent, back to tonight, one of the big blocks is for reproductive freedom. And it's interesting that the banner this evening is for the people. And we just heard Hillary Clinton talking about freedom and what that means. And that translates in this room a lot to the freedom to have an abortion across this country.
And it uses what I think is one of the most annoying and obnoxious of all the euphemisms for abortion, which is reproductive freedom. Abortion is about a lot of things. It's not about reproduction. It's about avoiding reproduction. But that is a phrase that the Democrats have hit on and have used it for years. Abortion rights advocates do the same thing. I think people who want to justify what is, in some instances, arguably a necessary thing to have happen, but never something you celebrate. In this hall, on this night, for this week, it's celebrated as a form of freedom. But
Planned Parenthood been around town performing abortions and vasectomies. That's also something that's been celebrated this week. So something different.
That's right. Yeah. You wonder, though, Harold, as this continues to go longer and longer, they're now 35 minutes behind. Putting the president that late, isn't that kind of an affront
Well, I hope he comes on. I hope he comes on sooner than a 10:45, 10:50. But just a couple observations, some points have been made. Winning is not a bad strategy to have in politics. So if they win, it's a positive thing for the party. It is not lost on anyone that Joe Biden is exiting. And it's not lost on him, the voters here, or Kamala Harris. So we've gotten over it as a party. I'm a Democrat. The party's gotten over it for the singular reason, for the singular thing you said. Democrats want to win this election. Two, the issues are of a concern to me. I do think we're going to have to begin to talk about them at some level and in a serious way. Because campaigns are the successful campaigns are ones that talk about the future, talk about everyday people, how their policies are going to make their lives better. We got a few days to start getting to it. This week, we may not get to it. Carl may be right. But we're going to leave this convention on Thursday night if she gives a great speech with a lot of momentum, with a lot of energy, and hopefully a preparedness to focus on how we're actually going to make people's lives better day to day.
Yeah. Dana, they have, by my count, about 10 more things between.
I think they're shedding some speakers as we speak.
We're here right now. Right?
Representative Mang, I think, just got the axe. This is Representative Jasmine Crockett from Texas. What do you say we listen in for just a couple seconds? Yeah.
And cheat, known for inciting violent mobs. Listen, y'all. He's only looked out for one person, himself. As women are dying, he is bragging about overturning Roe. And y'all know I come from Texas. And right now in Texas, come on, Texas. But right now in Texas, they want to institute the death penalty. That is a problem. While Kamala Harris is fighting for our reproductive rights to be restored. She is also the leader we need on the global stage. She helped secure the release of Americans wrongfully detained in Russia. At the same time, he cozies up to his role model, Vladimir Putin, and MAGA holds legislation hostage here at home, critical resources to secure the border, military aid to Ukraine, and even the Farm Bill. She's lived the American dream while he's been America's nightmare. America, looking at the two choices before you, who would you hire? Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris has a resume. Donald Trump has a rap sheet. She presides over the Senate while he keeps our national secrets next to his thinking chair. Y'all know what I said that other time. In real Lago. Well, Donald Trump wants to put our 1787 Constitution through his Project 2025 paper shredder and make every day January 6th. Kamala Harris is fighting to fulfill the promise of America. In the real world, this wouldn't even be close. But this election is. Don't make a mistake. We are the underdogs in this fight. Even though there is only one person qualified, only one person who's done the work and who has delivered the results. And she needs you. She needs your one vote this November. Can we count on you?
All right, that's Representative Jasmine Crockett from Texas. She's on the Judiciary Committee, and she's had some fiery hearings in that whole back and forth. I think Peter Ducey is live on the convention floor with a little color from down there. Peter?
A lot of color. We're actually next to the Washington State Democratic section because they have the best hats. You guys are the only ones with hats that light up.
Yes.
I'm the chair.
Tell me about the hats. Washington State. I don't think of a blinking cowboy hat when I think Washington State.
Well, we're going from the Beehive to the K-Hive to the WH Hive, all the way to the White House. We are Cowboy Kamala like Cowboy Carter. We are celebrating this cultural and political moment.
All right. You heard it there. And you can tell
Peter
people
Ducey's.
are paying
I like
very,
Peter
very close
Ducey.
attention to everything that's being said on stage. You know, you talk about the vibe shift, which is something that Democrats are hoping to keep going. You don't see people really on their phones except to like take a picture right now because they're on TV or take a picture of the stage. But it is a very engaged crowd, and everybody here is just waiting for the president, who is backstage right now doing a photo line with the folks who set up this convention for him and had to, at the very, very last minute, change everything. Brett and Martha.
Peter, you just spoke the
I
other
wonder if they'll have
day
to. Maybe he'll cut his speech short. Maybe they'll shorten his
about
speech so he can get out of there quickly.
Distancing herself from his Bidenomics and some other policies. He said, "Oh, she's not going to do that." You've been around the president a lot on the trail and at the White House. So, what do you expect to hear from him tonight? It's a big night for him.
Well, they're saying that it's not going to be about his legacy, and that makes sense because the policies that he was trying to bring into a second term were so unpopular against Trump that they decided just to fold it up and tweak things a little bit. What's going to be really interesting, though, is we know just from a practical perspective, Kamala Harris cannot be tied to Joe Biden too much and win the election just because of those policies. And so it'll be very interesting to watch how they salute President Biden. Biden aides are telling us that he wants to speak on the first night and hand the convention off to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, which seems like a nice way of them saying that he is just going to start to slowly fade into the background and let them come up with some new economic policies that might be more popular and keep the good vibes going. And in this convention hall, and you guys see it from the suite, it's a lot of good vibes for Democrats.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Peter, really quick, one more thing. You know, Joe Biden's been in office in politics for more than 50 years, 5 decades. He has never had a convention to be nominated in with all these people. He had to do his convention with COVID, with nobody there. A lot of people talk about this moment being bittersweet. You're at that White House. What is the feeling there?
I was standing at the foot of the stage when President Biden came out to do his walkthrough, and I got a sense from being the number one consumer of Joe Biden content in America for the last 5 years, that as he looked out at all of this, there was some kind of a feeling like this is all supposed to be for me, and so it's not going to happen for him ever. And you can see in the clip right here, he looks kind of morose. He was speaking just barely above a whisper. That is not somebody who is pumping himself up for this big primetime speech. That is somebody who knows that this is the beginning of the end.
All right, Peter, we'll check back in on the floor. Thank you.
All right, let's get back to our panel.
Yeah, Peter Ducey had a point there because you see the look on Biden's face. Morose was one of the words. Just a glaze, a malaise over his face because he knows that if he was the nominee, this convention would be all about him. And
elements in this campaign to voters. Well, I think that it's interesting. I don't believe that he and the White House got the memo that Kamala Harris wants to distance herself from the Biden-Harris administration on the economy in particular. And I thought that when she did her first policy announcement, it flopped so badly, and it reminded me that she starts off strong in campaigns. She was the first one out of the gate in 2020, February 2020, big event in California. Donald Trump tweeted that day, wow, look at her. She's a contender. By December, it was all over. So she starts strong. And you know the game of Jenga? Okay, it starts off real easy, and you're pulling those pieces going around the table. And she pulled the price gouging, greedy market chains. Let's put price controls on that from the government and try to put it on top. It got wobbly. And that was just the first one.
the left-wing media panned it, but what I thought was interesting is that she didn't try to correct it. So to me, I don't know whether they're just going to rest and let the media try to do this for them, or if they're going to realize that they've got some problems, not just on the economy, on the other issues you mentioned as well.
You know, Britt, we've obviously invited her on our shows and hasn't taken any invites for any media interviews. She will, though, and there will be a lot of pressure on whoever sits down with her first to go over those 2019 positions to what they are now.
Well, let's hope that happens, Brett. I mean, there's been no sign of any appetite on the part of most mainstream media outlets to even raise these issues with her. After all, you don't have to get an interview to write a piece making an issue of the contrast between what you said then and what you said then. What we see now is sort of passing references to the fact that she no longer holds this position now or that position now. And of course, we haven't heard any of that from her herself as we've spoken about. I must say I'm reminded tonight. I was a young reporter in Washington watching the Democratic convention in 1972 when George McGovern was their nominee. He got his speech off at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, well, the Democrats will never let anything that bad happen again. They seem to have learned a lesson to some extent, but not completely from what we're seeing tonight.
40 minutes behind right now.
Carl, let's bring Carl.
Brett Baer
back
just stood
in.
there 40
Carl,
minutes behind.
We were on this afternoon when former President Trump
40
was
minutes
speaking
behind
in York,
schedule.
Pennsylvania. No doubt he's going to be taking this in this week, and he's in a tougher position now than he was a few weeks ago, for sure. Talk about what you think needs to happen on your side of the equation.
Well, there's such a target-rich environment that there needs to be a disciplined effort to take the advantage that Donald Trump has on the issues of inflation, the economy, and immigration, and to go straight at Kamala Harris on those issues and to contrast their two records. And he needs to hold her, explain why she has to be held responsible for it. For example, on the issue of inflation, to say she is the woman who cast the deciding vote that passed the $2 trillion American Rescue Plan that Democrat economists, including the former Secretary of the Treasury, Larry Summers, said would cause inflation. And then she cast 3 more votes, adding trillions of dollars of spending to our economy and to the government's budget, which blew up the deficit and gave us this inflation that we have. And he's got to make that case. People, it can't be she's got bad ideas. He's got to explain those bad ideas in a way that people can say, you know what, I understand better than I have before why she's responsible for it. Remember, the people who are up for grabs in this election, a bunch of them are low information, low propensity voters. One Democrat told me recently they'd been doing a big study. Those people spent 4 minutes a week, according to their estimation, thinking about politics. So he needs to get back to the essentials and say, here's what she did wrong, and then say, here's specifically what I'm going to do. And he gets a lot of applause when he says drill baby drill, because that's something specific. I want energy independence, and the way to get it is to unleash our energy industry, but he needs to augment it with more so that people have a sense he's got a second act in him and that his answers will help solve those problems. Both parties are going to have to convince the American people that they will make their lives better. And to some degree, that requires them to outline their visions, their values, and what they want to do.
Yep. Kellyanne, you successfully were leading that campaign in 2016. Pennsylvania was a big part of that equation. How does somebody here move the needle in Pennsylvania? How does the Trump campaign move the needle in Pennsylvania with all those different kind of voters there?
So our strategy in Pennsylvania can be the strategy this time, Brett, which is do better than most Republican candidates do in those 5 collar counties around Philadelphia. You may not win them, but you got to mitigate the deficits that the usually Republican candidate would have. And then you run up the totals in the western part.
Yep, you heard Karl Rove. Yep, Karl Rove giving some free advice to the Trump campaign.
Look, it's energy independence. It's fracking. Pennsylvania has more energy under its feet than many countries. It's also inflation. I think it's also school choice. You had a governor, Tom Wolf, that vetoed school choice and charters a few times. I think that can bring a lot of these Hispanic and African American parents and grandparents back to Donald Trump. That CBS poll says he's got 41% of Hispanics. That ain't nothing. But I will say the Pennsylvania 2016 that I publicly said is our reach state, The 19 electoral votes it represents now, that's almost incidental to the fact that you can vote so early in Pennsylvania. Part of my express strategy of going after Pennsylvania in 2016 is that it had a rich tradition of day of voting. That's all been turned upside down because of COVID. And ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe the only thing that we still do the same way that we did during COVID is the way we vote. It makes no sense. I think it benefits. Republicans are catching up as much as they can by investing in the non-sexy parts of politics. But Brett, the Pennsylvania 2016 is winnable to Donald Trump. But if and only if they do the tactics as well as the messaging. And the tactics here are early voting, legal ballot harvesting. And I think President and Mrs. Trump can make a great example by voting early in Florida for him. If the line roars, others will follow. I like the fact that he's tied in Pennsylvania. I think Dave McCormick, the Senate candidate, is a strong one. He's got some of the best ads against Kamala of any down ballot candidate in this country.
That's interesting. Right now, they're going through the reproductive freedom block. We expect Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, to come on. He was at one time thought to be in the VP hunt, but was taken out of that mix towards the end, leaving Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, Mark Kelly from Arizona, and Tim Walz, obviously from Minnesota, who is now in the hall and is sitting as the nominee.
Yeah, we were just there. He is with his wife Gwen as they listen to these stories. You know, Harold, this is one of the biggest issues for the Democrat Party. They believe that this is going to help them win in November. So right now we're listening to some stories of people's personal experiences after the change in the abortion law. But there are voters, Hispanic voters, Black voters, lots of voters out there for whom this is not a good issue.
So I differ slightly. I will say this. The Democrats learned from the Republicans who did this well at the convention when they had everyday people talking about these issues that really matter to them. You look at what's happened over the last 2 years since Roe was overturned. Each state that has had an initiative on the ballot to ensure that rights for women to be able to have an abortion are protected, they all pass, even in red states, including Virginia and Ohio. 2, we shouldn't kid ourselves. This race has been reset, and she's reset it. Her entry on the ticket has done that. 3, a rate cut, a ceasefire in Gaza, and gas prices after Labor Day remain still staples in politics. We don't have any of those things yet. We'll see what happens here over the next few weeks, and I think she will be advantaged, she being Kamala Harris, if indeed that is the case. Finally, I'm looking forward to hearing Andy Beshear tonight. I think he's one of the rising stars in the Democratic Party as well. He's got a great record in Kentucky, and he talks about something I haven't heard a whole lot here, nor did I hear a whole lot in Milwaukee: growth. We got to figure out how we grow things, grow more jobs and better jobs, how we grow better schools, how we make better schools. So hopefully we'll get a little bit of that from him tonight as well.
Before we hear from the Kentucky governor, I want to head down to Bill Hemmer. Bill, what do you got?
Yeah, guys, good evening again. We were just watching a video a moment ago about abortion, and we had a couple different couples come out and share their experience about having troubled pregnancies. That clearly it's an issue they're going to ride and drive hard. Meanwhile, I thought Carl made an interesting point about maybe a lack of issues, maybe more of a biography debate or convention, I should say. It's like an introduction of Kamala Harris. There was a video they played of her as a younger woman in Oakland who came to the rescue of a friend of hers who had been raped by a relative. And so we're going to get into that over the next 4 days and more of Kamala Harris's life. I'll send it back up to you and just mention this, guys. You can't help but get the sense that maybe this convention doesn't care if they push Joe Biden closer toward midnight on the East Coast.
Wow, that's really late.
Right?
That is really late. Let's take a listen in to Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear.
We must tear away any chance he can ever be president ever again. In 21 states, Trump's actions have resulted in extreme bans on abortion in my state, even in cases of rape, incest, and non-viable pregnancies. That leaves 12-year-old girls like Hadley with no options. That fails any test of humanity, any test of basic decency, any test of whether you have any underlying empathy. Thankfully, this extremism is being soundly rejected all over our country. In Kentucky, we put reproductive freedom on the ballot last November, and I beat Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell's hand-picked candidate by more than 5 percentage points. This November, we're going to beat them again. Elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and protect reproductive freedom. Folks, Donald Trump appointed the Supreme Court justices who got us into this mess. His Project 2025 goes even further. Here's the thing. Trump and Vance simply don't believe in your freedom. Trump says people are absolutely thrilled that women have their basic rights eliminated. J.D. Vance says women should stay in violent marriages and that pregnancies resulting from rape are simply inconvenient. Their policies give rapists more rights than their victims. That's not inconvenient, it's just plain wrong. And a woman grieving a non-viable pregnancy shouldn't be required to carry it to term just to listen to her child die or to hear no sound at all. All women should have the freedom to make their own decisions. Freedom over their own bodies. Freedom about whether to pursue IVF. Freedom about whether to have children at all. How we treat people transcends party lines. It goes right to the heart of who we are. My faith teaches me the golden rule that I am to love my neighbor as myself. In the parable, the Good Samaritan says we are all each other's neighbors. So I want anyone watching tonight, Republican, Independent, Democrat, to know that you are welcome here. We believe in America where we live out our values, end anger politics once and for all, and move beyond this us versus them by remembering we are all Americans. That's how Joe Biden and Kamala Harris lead. They both called to ask how they could help Kentucky in recovering from natural disasters. They helped us improve our roads, our bridges, and invested in our people. They didn't ask me who Kentuckians voted for. They asked me what Kentuckians needed, and folks, they delivered. Kamala Harris gets it. She knows we must move beyond anger, extremism, and division, that everyone has dignity and deserves respect. America, we're going to win. And we're going to win by staying true to our values of compassion, empathy, and doing right by our neighbors. I'm so proud to be all in for the next president of the United States, Kamala Harris. Thank you.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear there talking a lot about abortion after a number of different speakers about the issue of abortion back on the panel. Yeah. It's interesting that we're in this point.
It is. I mean, what does it say about the modern state of the Democratic Party? That it could not ask these abortion speakers to stand aside to make room for the President of the United States to speak at a reasonable hour tonight. And they're still in it.
You heard it. Yeah. So if abortion should be safe, legal, and rare, first of all, they should be safe, meaning there are dangers in the first place, right? Because they can be dangerous, but they come with risks like any other surgical procedure, including up to death. And and legal, meaning they should be legal. Okay, and they should be rare, which kind of means they shouldn't happen. All that that's not a good thing. So that's why it should be rare. When they say abortion should be safe, legal, and rare.
All over town, and it is just jarring.
And it's just kind of
inflatable IUD contraceptive device that people are taking pictures in front of. If the theme is for the people tonight, that's what it was supposed to be about, right? For the people. We've now spent, over an hour, more than an hour, talking about abortion, about abortion rights. And I think about, Harold, this message that we've been hearing, that it's like joyful, right? A joyful, patriotic embrace, even
It is one
of
thing
the
to make
future.
abortion available in certain circumstances, but it is regrettable, I would think most decent people would say. It is quite another to celebrate it the way it's being celebrated here.
Yeah. It's no longer about it being rare.
Right.
I feel like I'm dating myself when I say I'm used to going. I've been to a dozen or more conventions in my life, Democrat and Republican, and I like hearing America's best days are in front of us. I like hearing from governors who have great track records of creating
see.
jobs.
Trump just put it, but the Supreme Court just put it back in the power of the states. It's a states' rights issue because it's not in the Constitution that you have a.
How did you win 2
You know what I
terms in
mean?
a state that
Trump
Mitch
just put it.
McConnell is the sitting senator, where you have Rand Paul as the
Or the
because
Supreme Court
don't get me wrong,
just
I
put it
think,
back in the state's
protecting
hands.
abortion rights was part of it, but also because he's created jobs, because he's improved schools. So I hope maybe tonight is going to focus a lot on this. Hope the next few nights we also focus on some of these other things as well. But I'm looking forward to hearing the president. I do hope he comes on.
I mean, at this point, you've got 5 speakers to go, plus
Still?
a James Taylor "You've Got a Friend" performance.
I wonder if we can put that on 1.5 speed. Yeah, that's a slow song. But it's a go-to. They keep going back to it, right? Over election again. after election after. And I grew up listening to James Taylor, "You Got a Friend," but at some point, I think we're going to have some good musical surprises though later in the week. Britt, when you look at if you're Joe Biden and you're sitting back there, you've been doing this for 52 years. This is supposed to be your big night. Can you say to Raphael Warnock or Chris Coons or a few of these folks, like, why don't you guys go on after me?
I would think you could, or I think somebody.
Britt Hume would.
Well, yeah.
You guys are out of here. I'm up next.
I can identify with Joe Biden. We're the same age. I know how I feel. I'd be furious, but and I'm just sitting here as an observer, and I find it somewhat infuriating. And it's not just because I want to get a good night's sleep either.
Can I say one thing, Brett? There was something done earlier in the evening. I just want a tribute that was done to Reverend Jesse Jackson. He's from Chicago, who's someone who inspired a generation of politicians and pastors and other public leaders. It was a hero of mine at 88 convention. It happened early.
The Harold Ford Jr. He's kind of the token Democrat on the panel.
He continues to do with the great work he's done on behalf of the country and the party. So I say thank you, Reverend Jackson.
This is the 26th convention that has been held in the city of Chicago. Most conventions held in this city than any other in the U.S. And the last one was 1996 with Bill Clinton. Remember, he accepts the nomination. They do the Macarena, the whole dancing thing.
Over again.
I want to go back to Karl Rove and Kellyanne. Karl, is this going to work tonight? Pushing Biden past 11 p.m. East Coast time?
Well, it's going to work if you don't want to make the face of the convention Joe Biden, and congratulations on them for deciding that wouldn't be a wise thing to do. But no, it is very strange. We're sitting here at approaching midnight on the East Coast, and the audience for Joe Biden is going to be small. People are going to hear about it tomorrow. I'm sure it'll be a warm, fulsome response from the crowd. But again, it's an indication they want to put him in the rearview mirror as quickly as they possibly can.
You heard it from Karl Rove.
Lines outside, so a lot of this has been sort of clogged up in the
It is
gears
very
in
odd
terms of getting
that
people
Biden is
inside
the
and
last
getting
speaker tonight.
this whole thing going. But typically, not to belabor the time thing, but typically, if a Thursday night, you might have a night that looks like it's going to go this late in enormous anticipation of the nominee coming out and giving their big speech. And we all know that Donald Trump certainly spoke for a very long time, and that was a late night as well. But usually that's Thursday night, not Monday.
Yeah. And Kellyanne, go ahead.
So if you look at the crowd, though, no one's leaving.
Everyone
That's
seems
correct.
very happy.
Yep.
They're excited. They want it. They're enthusiastic, and I truly believe if Joe Biden were still the nominee, it would not be like this at all. So the enthusiasm gap that Kamala Harris has been able to close, especially with the young people, it is an impressive feat. I think that all of us, our heads are a little bit spinning. Like, wait, 8 weeks ago you said she shouldn't even be on the ticket, but now you're all for her. But the other thing is, she's basically said, "I'll rise to this occasion. I'll take the baton and I will run with it."
Has Team Trump, Kellyanne, settled on their attack plan against Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? Has there been, do you think, a uniting of forces here, a change in how they're approaching this ticket? Because obviously it's a new ticket.
It is new. And look, Donald Trump beat a woman before. He can beat a woman again. But this woman's not defined the way Hillary Clinton was. She was seen as sour and dour. She had a lot of people telling pollsters, I don't think she's honest or trustworthy. In fact, she's probably corrupt. And she wasn't seen as fresh and new. She wasn't seen as part of the old, she really was part of the old girls club to the extent there was one. And I think it's a different race, a different set. And look, the struggle is not to find the best nickname for her or insult her. I want more insights, fewer insults. I think the way to beat her is very obvious. It's through policy. And in 2016, when Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton, a much more formidable, much more experienced woman, the issue set was not as clean. He wanted border security and immigration to be a top issue and couldn't get it there. He's the one who introduced it, elevating to the national consciousness, but to international derision, not to the number 2 issue in all 7 swing states and nationwide where it is now. He said he can get growth better and unemployment down and wages up. But those were promises from a business guy and a job creator. He did all that. He can point to what he did, performance versus promises. On policy, he wins this hands down. And I do want to say this because we're going to be reminded of it if and when Joe Biden speaks sometime tonight. Scranton Joe got in the way of our 2016 victory in 2020 in this way. We had flipped 206 counties that voted for Obama twice. They voted for Trump in 2006. Biden won back 5 of those, 2 in Pennsylvania, 2 in Michigan, 1 in Wisconsin. Why is that important? Because we all know that these elections come down to a handful of votes in about 22, 23 counties. The question is, if Kamala Harris runs too far away from the Biden economic plan, or the Biden legacy, will she be seen as too undefined, as too radical, as too San Francisco and not enough Scranton? So she's got to be careful. I want to make one last point because it bothers me tremendously. Here we have a woman running for president. Who is giving the advice to silence the woman? I find it, not even as a woman, I just find it as an American, disgraceful and disingenuous that we're so excited we have a woman and nobody wants her to speak. They don't want her to speak to the press. They don't want her to speak under the wing of the plane. They don't want her to do softball interviews. It's a terrible look. Give Hillary Clinton her due. She wasn't afraid to speak. What came out of her mouth sometimes was suspect or calling people irredeemable and deplorable. But the woman we're looking at right there on the split screen, the presidential nominee, could be the first female president of color in our nation's history. And her closest advisor is saying, zip it until you can reach the teleprompter this week.
We're listening to the end of the Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock, and we've just been told that you've got a friend has been bumped until after President Biden. So,
Harold,
go ahead, Harold.
But I think I hear everything Kellyanne is saying, but I don't, she's closed the gap here. This is still about winning a campaign. She won't be able to win Kamala Harris without talking about these issues. She has been out on the trail. She's not answered the way that some might want her to answer and stand before an oppressor, which I think she's going to have to do. But she's out talking with voters, interacting with voters, and talking a little bit about what she thinks America's going to look like going forward. I do think Bill Hemmer said something really important, too. People thought that this convention, and I saw a young activist on your show this morning, Dana, who was talking about he thought the Democratic Party was abandoning Israel. You've not seen anybody in this room talking about
Hamas or Gaza, Democrats protesting here. The notion of releasing hostages, I talked about earlier, ceasefire. There has to be a release of hostages for that to happen, but you've not seen that on the floor.
You've seen it right outside.
I know, but not in this hall. We saw a few protesters in Milwaukee. My only point is, there's some things that they're trying to get under control here that they have, but I would agree with you. The time tonight's a little different. I would have had Bashir talk a little bit more about his record there in Kentucky. We got 3 more nights, and we'll see what happens.
Let's go down to Bill Hemmer. Bill, what do you got?
Brett, Raphael Warnock, the Democratic Senator from Georgia, has just made the transition back to Joe Biden. You can hear it in his speech. You can see it in the teleprompter across the way. From my perspective here, just like in Milwaukee, I can see the speaker and the teleprompter at the same time. So I can keep an eye on him and see whether or not there's strength in the message. But he's just made the transition back to Joe Biden. So what is coming up next? Chris Coons, the Democratic Senator from Delaware, will do an introduction, followed by Joe Biden, followed by their Ashley, and then we will see the current U.S. President, Joe Biden. In the meantime, the Trump team and their rapid advance response is already out. And they're going to say this. Democrats say that we're not going back. They're asking back where? Back to low inflation and secure borders. So they're going to hit on that issue. They're also going to hit on her record as DA in San Francisco, talking about crime and the murder rate. So look for those messages after we leave Chicago going into September. So as we wait for the current president, it is now 11:02 on the East Coast. Brett and Martha, we still wait. And we might even have a video that could run as long as 10 minutes. We'll see whether or not that still makes the cut here in Chicago.
You just lost Britt. He's back in the phone. He's now
Wait, there's a video?
deep into X.
I didn't sign up for this.
Remember in Iowa when he left?
What are the betting markets saying? What are the betting markets saying? Is it before midnight?
Can I mention one thing, though, that on Gaza and Hamas and hostages, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez gave a rousing speech. She covered a lot of topics, but her biggest applause line was when she said that Kamala Harris is the first to call for a ceasefire, and that she will get a ceasefire, and that she will protect the people of Gaza. And she added, and get the hostages back. But it was definitely, it's not that it's been buried.
But so you had 2 squad members who were the worst and the most wrong in Israel. They lost their primaries. I'm glad they did. Yeah. Kamala Harris stared down and talked down to those protesters, saying, "Look, if you don't like my policy, then go vote for Donald Trump." Now I've got a speech to give. So I mean, I hear you, but I think she has been clearer than she's been given credit for.
Let me just say that this speech is super long.
I don't think anybody got the memo. If you're a lead-up speaker, to be like, all right, you've got 7 minutes. You know, honestly, it's running these things.
You're Joe Biden standing backstage, and Raphael Warnock, a freshman senator, is holding the floor long after you were supposed to speak. How'd you feel about that?
Yeah, no, there's a lot to be said for brevity and for keeping things moving.
For the hook.
For the hook. You know, one of the things that it has been said that President Biden would like, you know, when he looks at the window that he has between now and January, is exactly that, to bring hostages home and to have a ceasefire. As he looks for a legacy to cap off this 50-plus year career, Harold, in service to the country, this is something that we know would mean a lot to him. He wants to have, you know, a sort of capstone on all of this, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I could only echo what's been said. It is unusual. I cannot imagine that this is what the DNC was hoping, that at 11:05 p.m. East Coast time, that we would still have a few more speakers before the president gets up. Who I heard Chairman Harrison, who I think has did a great job earlier in the evening as well, say we want to give flowers to this president and show tribute. We ought to get him on.
You're going to lose everybody. Everybody's going to be asleep.
So let's listen in to Senator Chris Coons from Delaware. He's part of the co-chairs
and
of
I want
the
to talk
Harris
with you
Walz
for just
campaign.
a few minutes about my dear friend, our president, Joe Biden. Joe Biden's mom had a saying: "You are defined by your courage, and you are redeemed by your loyalty." 4 years ago, I had the honor of helping introduce Joe Biden to our national convention. I spoke about Joe's faith, his love of family, his determination to restore the soul of our nation. Back in 2020, America was nearly flat on our back from a deadly pandemic, an economic collapse, and then in January, an assault on our democracy. All of this, because the drama and chaos of our former president had knocked us down. But folks, Joe Biden's courage, Joe Biden's faith in us, Joe Biden's determination to
So
heal
this may be the last time I get to talk before Joe Biden comes on, but
and gave us confidence.
I don't think
Someone
a
who has
president
himself
can make your life that
been
much
knocked
worse or
down
that much
by
better.
life,
One man or one woman
time,
can't.
Joe Biden knows the grit and determination of the American people. He believed in us, and Joe Biden helped us get back up again. Using the incredible skills he developed in many years in the U.S. Senate, Joe got passed and signed into law
Many years in the U.S.
most
Senate.
consequential legislation of any president in 60 years, helping our veterans, advancing gun safety, cutting prescription drug prices, fighting climate change, rebuilding bridges and broadband, bringing manufacturing back to America. Together, Joe and Kamala helped rebuild our economy from the middle up, from the bottom up, and the middle out, not from the top down. And they made our families safer and our country stronger at home and abroad. Today, we are so much better off because they believed in us, in our democracy. And our incredible First Lady, Jill Biden, our incredible First Lady, Jill Biden, our incredible First Lady, Jill Biden, was at Joe's side every step of the way, fighting for education, advancing the cancer moonshot, determined to improve women's health care, honoring military families. Joe and Jill, together, you have done so much for us. And there's so much more you will do and we can do together. Mr. President, thank you. Thank you for elevating a great leader in Kamala Harris. Vice President Harris, thank you for choosing a great running mate with a heart for the middle class like yours in Sergeant, Congressman, Coach, Governor Tim Walz. I have hope. Do you? I have hope. Do you? I have hope. Do you? And it is in no small part because of Joe Biden. I have never known a more compassionate man than Joe Biden. I have never known a man who has taken from his own loss and his own faith and delivered so much for the future of so many others. Mr. President, you were my senator as a Delawarean. You are my president as an American, and you will always be my friend. On behalf of our nation, Joe, for your courage in fighting for our democracy, we thank you.
Democracy is mob rule. Majority rule is mob rule.
On behalf of our Democratic Party, for your loyalty in fighting for our democratic values, we thank you.
And they salute him for bowing out.
And on behalf of Delaware, thank you, Joe, and God bless you. We love you. We love Joe. We love Joe. We love Joe. We love Joe. Thank you all. We love Joe. God bless you, and thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Vivian Weirwell, and I'm a student at Kristen McAuliffe. I've been bouncing around all week excited for this moment, and last night I could barely sleep. I remember the day that we heard that President Biden had won, and the whole neighborhood started celebrating. So when I heard you were coming, I really wanted to meet you. I adore you because you embrace change from my generation and the ones to come. I look up to you. Now it is my honor to introduce our First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden.
Please welcome First Lady of the United States, Jill Biden.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Love you too. Joe and I have been together for almost 50 years. And still, there are moments when I fall in love with him all over again. Like when I handed him our baby Ashley for the first time and saw the smile that lit up his face. Or on nights after an exhausting day working in the Senate, when he would read one more bedtime story just because the kids asked. When he stops on a rope line because he sees someone grieving who needs to know that everything is going to be all right one day. Or to encourage that child with a stutter to find the confidence she needs. Those moments when I'm reminded of all he's accomplished in the name of something bigger than himself. Receiving the Medal of Freedom with humility. Placing his hand on our family Bible to take his oath of office. And weeks ago, when I saw him dig deep into his soul and decide to no longer seek re-election and endorse Kamala Harris. With faith and conviction, Joe knows that our nation's strength doesn't come from intimidation or cruelty. It comes from the small acts of kindness that heal deep wounds, from service to the communities that make us who we are, from love of a country that shines with promise and renewal. Kamala Harris knows that too.
Our son Bo first worked with Kamala when he was Attorney General of Delaware. He told me at the dinner table one night, "Mom, she's special, someone to keep your eye on." And he was right. Joe and I know Kamala. We have seen her courage, her determination, and her leadership up close. Kamala and Tim, you will win. And you are inspiring a new generation. We are all a part of something bigger than ourselves, and we are stronger than we know. The future of our country is in the hands of those in this room and all of you watching at home. It's going to take all of us, and we can't afford to lose. With faith in each other, hope for a brighter future, and love for our country, we will fight and we will win together. Thank you. Thank you.
Please welcome first daughter, Ashley Biden.
Good evening. I have this memory. It's the eve of my 8th birthday. Dad is still in DC, tending to urgent matters in the Senate. That night, as a surprise, Mom told me, Bo, and Hunter to get in the car. I remember pulling up to the Wilmington Amtrak station, riding up the escalator to the platform. The train stops, doors open, and Dad steps out. As soon as I saw him, I run down that platform and jump into his arms. Like magic, Mom brought out a cake, they sang happy birthday, and I blew out the candles. Dad hugged me, and he said that he had to get back to work. He crossed to the southbound train, and off he went to DC. That was a snapshot of one moment, of one day, on this extraordinary journey of being Joe Biden's daughter. Joe Biden is the OG girl dad. He told me I could be anything and I could do anything. As a child, I would sit on the leather chair in his office doing my homework, and he would sit next to me doing his work, drafting the Violence Against Women Act. And he wasn't just a girl dad. And he wasn't just a girl dad. I could see that he valued and trusted women. How he listened to his mother, how he believed in his sister, and most of all, how he respected my mother's career. Dad was always there, doing everything he could to be a true partner to her. Dad, you always tell us, but we don't tell you enough, that you are the love of our lives and the life of our love. I had my wedding reception in my parents' backyard. At the time, my dad was vice president. But he was also that dad who literally set up the entire reception. He was riding around in his John Deere four-wheeler, fixing the place settings, arranging the plants, and by the way, he was very emotional. I thought that I would be a mess, but he was the one crying, and I was the one who had to comfort him. Before he walked me down the aisle, he turned to me and said that he would always be my best friend. All these years later, Dad, you are still my best friend. His example in service inspired my career. I'm a social worker in Philadelphia. I support formerly incarcerated women as they heal from past trauma and they reclaim their lives. Dad always told me that I was no better than anybody else and nobody was better than me. He taught me that everyone deserves a fair shot and that we shouldn't leave anyone behind. That's what you learn from a fighter who has been underestimated his entire life. When I look at Dad, I see grace, strength, and humility. I see one of the most consequential leaders ever in history. And I also know that he never stops thinking about you, about your dreams, about your dignity, about your opportunities, about your family. Dad knows that family is everything. When Hunter and I lost our brother Bo to cancer in 2015, the grief and the pain felt like it might never end. Dad had the capacity to step out of his own pain and absorb ours. And I know that Bo is here with us tonight, as he is always with us. After Bo passed, I got this tattoo on my wrist. It says, "Courage, dear heart." A reminder to myself to keep going, to get back up, like my dad has always done. He has taught me that a courageous heart is a miraculous thing. A courageous heart can heal a family. A courageous heart can heal a nation, and maybe even the world. And now, this election requires the courageous hearts of all of us. In 2020, my dad selected Kamala Harris to beat Donald Trump. And he knows in 2024, she will beat Donald Trump again. So tonight, I am asking you, if you stood with us in 2020, call upon your courageous heart. Stand with us today. Work harder than you have ever worked before in your life. This is the fight of our lifetime. Our freedom, our democracy, our reproductive rights. All of this, all of it is on the ballot. And I know together we can do this because my dad helped show us the way. And now I would like to introduce my father, your 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
So keep it up, quench my desire.
thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That was my daughter. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for so. I tell you what. To my dearest daughter Ashley, God love you, you're incredible. Thank you for that introduction and for being my courageous heart, along with Hunter and our entire family, and especially our rock, Jill. Who, as those of you who know us, she still leaves me both breathless and speechless. Everybody knows her. I love her more than she loves me. She walks down the stairs and I still get that going boom, boom, boom. You all will know me. No, I'm not kidding. Let's give a special round of applause to our First Lady, Jill Biden. My dad used to have an expression, for real. He'd say, Joey, family is the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I love you all. Folks. And America, I love you. Folks, let me ask you. Let me ask you. Are you ready to vote for freedom? Are you ready to vote for democracy and for America? Let me ask you, are you ready to elect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, President and Vice President of the United States? My fellow Democrats, my fellow Americans, nearly 4 years ago, in winter, on the steps of the Capitol, on a cold January day, I raised my right hand and I swore an oath to you and to God to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and to faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States. In front of me was a city surrounded by the National Guard. Behind me, a Capitol that 2 weeks before had been overrun by a violent mob. What I knew then, from the bottom of my heart, that I knew now, there is no place in America for political violence. None. You cannot say you love your country only when you win. In that moment, I wasn't looking to the past. I was looking to the future. I spoke of the work at hand, the moment we had to meet. It was, as I told you then, a winter of peril and possibility. Of peril and possibility. We're in the grip of a once-in-a-century pandemic, historic joblessness, a call for racial justice long overdue, clear and present threats to our very democracy. Thank you. And yet I believed then, and I believe now, that progress was and is possible. Justice is achievable. And our best days are not behind us, they're before us. Now it's summer. The winter is past. And with a grateful heart, I stand before you now on this August night to report that democracy has prevailed. Democracy has delivered. And now democracy must be preserved. You've heard me say it before. We're facing an inflection point. One of those rare moments in history when the decisions we make now will determine the fate of our nation and the world for decades to come. That's not hyperbole, I mean it literally. We're in a battle for the very soul of America. I ran for president in 2020 because of what I saw in Charlottesville in August of 2017. Extremists coming out of the woods, carrying torches, their veins bulging from their necks, carrying Nazi swastikas, and chanting the same exact anti-Semitic bile that was heard in Germany in the early 30s. Neo-Nazis, white supremacists, the Ku Klux Klan, so emboldened by a president then in the White House that they saw as an ally. They didn't even bother to wear their hoods. Hate was on the march in America. Old ghosts and new garments, stirring up the oldest divisions, stoking the oldest fears, giving oxygen to the oldest forces that they had long sought to tear apart America. In the process, a young woman was killed. When I contacted her mother, I asked about what happened. She told me. When the president was asked what he thought had happened, Donald Trump said, and I quote, There are very fine people on both sides. My God. That's what he said. That is what he said and what he meant. That's when I realized, had listened to the admonition of my dead son, I could not stay on the sidelines. So I ran. Because I had no intention of running again. I just lost part of my soul. But I ran with a deep conviction. In America, I know and believe in an America where honesty, dignity, decency still matter. An America where everyone has a fair shot and hate has no safe harbor. An America where the fundamental creed of this nation, that all of us are created equal, is still very much alive. And a broad coalition of Americans joined with me. 81 million voters voted for us, more than any time in all of history. Because of all of you in this room and others, we came together in 2020 to save democracy. As your president, I've been determined to keep America moving forward, not going back, to stand against hate and violence in all its forms, to be a nation where we not only live with but thrive on diversity, demonizing no one, leaving no one behind, and becoming the nation that we profess to be. I also ran to rebuild the backbone of America, the middle class. I made a commitment to you that I be a president for all Americans, whether you voted for me or not. We have done that. Studies show the major bills we have passed actually delivered more to red states than blue. Because the job of the president is to deliver to all of America. Because of you, and I'm not exaggerating, because of you, we've had one of the most extraordinary 4 years of progress ever, period. When I say we, I mean Kamala and me. Just think about it. COVID no longer controls our lives. We've gone from economic crisis to the strongest economy in the entire world. Record 16 million new jobs. Record small business growth. Record high stock market. Record high 401ks. Wages up and inflation down, way down, and continuing to go down. The smallest racial wealth gap in 20 years. And yes, we both know we have more to do, but we're moving in the right direction. More Americans have peace of mind that comes from having health insurance. More Americans have health insurance today than ever before in American history. And after, as a young senator beginning to fight for 50 years to give Medicare the power to negotiate low prescription drug prices, we finally beat Big Pharma. And guess who cast the tie-breaking vote? Vice President, soon-to-be President Kamala Harris. And now it's the law of the land. Instead of paying $400 a month for insulin, seniors with diabetes will pay $35 a month. The law we passed already includes, starting in January, every senior's total prescription cost can be capped at $2,000 no matter how expensive the drugs they have. And what we don't focus on, and our Republican friends don't seem to understand, our reforms don't just save seniors money, they save the American taxpayers money. You know what we just passed saved? It saved $160 billion over the next decade. That's not hyperbole. It's because Medicare no longer has to pay those exorbitant prices to the big pharma. But look, thank you, Kamala, too. Look, folks, how can we have the strongest economy in the world without the best infrastructure in the world? Donald Trump promised Infrastructure Week every week for 4 years, and he never built a damn thing. But now, because of what Kamala and I have done, remember we were told we couldn't get it done. Remember when we came into office, we couldn't get anything passed? But right now, we're giving America an infrastructure decade, not week. We're modernizing our roads, our bridges, our ports, our airports, our trains, our buses. We're removing every lead pipe from schools and homes so every child can drink clean water. We're providing affordable high-speed internet for every American, no matter where they live, not unlike what Roosevelt did with electricity. And so much more. We are uniting the country. We're growing our economy. We're improving our quality of life. And we're building a better America. Because that's who we are. How can we be the strongest nation in the world without leading the world in science and technology? After years of importing 90% of our semiconductor chips from abroad, which America invented those chips. Our Chips and Science Act meant that private companies from around the world are now investing literally tens of billions of dollars to build new chip factories right here in America. And over that period, they'll create tens of thousands of jobs. And many of those jobs in the so-called fabs, the buildings that make the chips, are being constructed now. And guess what? The average salary in those fabs, size of a football field, will be over $100,000 a year, and you don't need a college degree. Because of you and so many electeds out there, American manufacturing is back. Where the hell to say we wouldn't lead the world in manufacturing? 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. Our Republican friends and others made sure they'd go abroad to get the cheapest labor. We used to import products and export jobs. Now we export American products and create American jobs right here in America, where jobs belong. With every new job, with every new factory, pride and hope is being brought back to communities throughout the country that were left behind. You know you're from them, many of you. You know what it's like when that factory closed, where your mother, your father, your grandmother, grandfather worked. And now you're back, providing once again, proving that Wall Street didn't build America, the middle class built America, and unions built the middle class. It's been my view since I came to the Senate. And that's why I'm proud that have been the first president to walk a picket line. And be labeled the most pro-union president in history, and I accept it. It's a fact. Because when unions do well, we all do well. You got it, man. You got it. I agree. I'm proud. Look, remember I told we couldn't get anything done because we couldn't get anything done in the Congress? Well, with your support, we passed the most significant climate law in the history of mankind. For $370 billion. Cutting carbon emissions in half by 2030. Launching a climate corps, similar to AmeriCorps and Peace Corps, creating tens of thousands of jobs for young people of the future who are going to make sure this continues. Creating hundreds of thousands of jobs in clean energy for American workers, including the IBEW installing 500,000 charging stations all across America. And in the process, reducing carbon emissions. And we're seeing it. We're seeing to it that the first beneficiaries of environmental initiatives are those fence-line communities that have been smothered by the legacy of pollution. Louisiana and Delaware, Route 9, all the factories, all those chemical factories are right next to the poorest neighborhoods. They're the ones we're going to bring back. And how? How can we be the greatest nation in the world without the best education system in the world? Donald Trump and the Republican friends, they not only can't think, they can't read very well. Seriously, think about it. Look at their Project 2025. They want to do away with the Department of Education. Well, during the pandemic, Kamala and I helped states and cities get back their schools back open. And we gave public school teachers a raise. We created apprenticeships in business and the communities, putting students on a path to a good paying job, whether or not they go to college. And by the way, we're making college a hell of a lot more affordable. Increasing Pell Grants by $900. Over $15 billion to HBCUs. Minority service education, including Hispanic institutions and tribal colleges. We kept our commitment to provide more student relief than ever by lifting the burden of helping millions of families so they can get married, start a family, buy a home, and begin to build family wealth and contribute to the community and grow our economy. It's not costing us, it's creating more wealth. We fundamentally transformed how our economy grows, from the middle out and the bottom up instead of the top down. My dad used to say there wasn't a whole hell of a lot to drop down on my kitchen table at the end of the month. I come from a basic middle-class family, 3-bedroom house, 4 kids, a grandpa living with us, decent neighborhood, but never a penny to spare. And look, that top-down notion never worked. A lot of Democrats didn't think it worked, thought it worked, but it doesn't. And when we did all that, what we've done, everybody can do well. Everybody. Donald Trump calls America a failing nation. No, I'm serious. But think about this. Think about this. He publicly says to the whole world, I'm going to say something outrageous. I know more foreign leaders by their first names and know them well than anybody alive. Just because I'm so damn old. But I'm not joking. Think of the message he sends around the world when he talks about America being a failing nation. He says we're losing. He's the loser. He's dead wrong. Many of you are very successful people who travel the world. Name me a country in the world that doesn't think we're the leading nation in the world. Without America, not a joke, think about it. I'm being literal. Who could lead the world other than the United States of America? Well, guess what? America's winning, and the world's better off for it. America's more prosperous, and Americans are safer today than under Donald Trump. Trump continues to lie about crime in America, like everything else. Guess what? On his watch, the murder rate went up 30%, the biggest increase in history. Meanwhile, we made the largest investment, Kamala and I, in public safety ever. Now, the murder rate is falling faster than any time in history. Violent crime has dropped to the lowest level of more than 50 years. And crime will keep coming down when we put a prosecutor in the Oval Office instead of a convicted felon. And folks, the distinguished senator from California and I passed the first ban on assault weapons. And guess what? It worked. If we care about public safety, we need to prevent gun violence. And what makes me ashamed when I travel the world, which I do, more children in America are killed by a gunshot than any other cause in the United States. More die from a bullet than cancer, accidents, or anything else in the United States of America. My God. That's why Kamala and I are proud. We beat the NRA when we passed the first major bipartisan gun safety law in 30 years. I'm serious. That comes from here. And now it's time to ban assault weapons again. And demand universal background checks. It's hard. I never thought I'd stand before a crowd of Democrats and refer to a president as a liar so many times. No, I'm not trying to be funny. It's sad. Trump continues to lie about the border. Here's what he won't tell you. Trump killed the strongest bipartisan border deal in the history of the United States that we negotiated with the Senate Republicans. It took 4 weeks. Once it passed, and never acknowledged those expansive border change in American history, he called senators to say, don't support the bipartisan bill, because he said it would help me politically and hurt him politically. My God. No, I'm serious. Think about it. Not a joke. Ask even the press who doesn't like me. They'll tell you that's true. Typically, Trump, once again, putting himself first and America last. Then I had to take executive action. The result of the executive action I took, border encounters have dropped over 50%. In fact, there are fewer border crossings today than when Donald Trump left office. And unlike Trump, we will not demonize immigrants, saying they're the poison of blood of America, poison the blood of our country. Kamala and I are committed to strengthening legal immigration, including protecting dreamers and more. And here's what else I believe in. Protecting your freedom to vote, your freedom to love who you love. And your freedom to choose. And it's decision overturning Roe v. Wade that you heard earlier tonight. The United States Supreme Court majority wrote the following, quote, women are not without electoral or political power. No kidding. MAGA Republicans found out the power of women in 2022. And Donald Trump is going to find out the power of women in 2024. Watch. And where Trump and his mega Republican right-wingers seek to erase history, we Democrats continue to write history and make more history. I'm proud to have kept my commitment to appoint the first black woman in the United States Supreme Court. Ketanji Brown Jackson, a symbol for every young woman in America that you can do anything. I'm proud that I've kept my commitment to have an administration that looks like America and that taps in to the full talent of our nation. The most diverse cabinet in history, including the first black woman in South Asian descent to serve as vice president. And will soon serve as the 47th president of the United States. She is good. Look. Thank you, Kamala. Folks, I've long said we have many obligations as a nation, but I got in trouble years ago for saying I'd make no apologies. We have only one truly sacred obligation: to prepare and equip those we send to war and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't. That's why I'm so proud that Britain and signed the PACT Act. One of the most significant laws ever, helping veterans and their families exposed to toxic materials like burn pits and Agent Orange. I was around during the Vietnam War. It's hard. Nobody was able to prove that there's illness was a consequence of Agent Orange. And no one was able to prove initially that because they lived in burn pits like my son lived next to in Iraq for a year, that is the cause of their illness. But because of the PACT Act, a surviving spouse with 2 children is now eligible for a stipend of about $3,000 a month. And those children who lost a parent for tuition benefits to go to college and to get job training. It's already helping over 1 million veterans and their families just so far. Well, I love them, and I'm so proud of my son's service. We get it. But guess who doesn't get it and doesn't respect our veterans? We know from his own chief of staff, the 4-star General John Kelly, that Trump, when in Europe, would not go to the grave sites in France. The brave service members who gave their lives to this country. He called them suckers and losers. Who in the hell does he think he is? Who does he think he is? There's no words for a person. They're not the words of a person not worthy of being commander-in-chief. Period. Not then, not now, and not ever. I mean that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Just as no commander-in-chief should ever bow down to a dictator, the way Trump bows down to Putin. I never have, and I promise you, Kamala Harris will never do it. Will never bow down. When Trump left office, Europe and NATO was in tatters. Not a joke. America First doctrine changed our whole image in the world. Well, they gave the hours, about 190 hours sum total, than my counterparts or heads of state in Europe to strengthen NATO. We did. We united Europe like it hadn't been united for years, adding Finland and Sweden to NATO. 10 days before he died, Henry Kissinger called and said, not since Napoleon has Europe not looked over their shoulder at Russia with dread until now. Until now. Well, guess what? Putin thought he'd take Kyiv in 3 days. 3 years later, Ukraine is still free. When I came to office, the conventional wisdom was that China would inevitably surpass the United States. They haven't noticed. No one's saying that now. And we'll keep working to bring hostages home and end the war in Gaza and bring peace and security to the Middle East. As you know, I wrote a peace treaty for Gaza. A few days ago, I put forward a proposal that brought us closer to doing that than we've done since October 7th. We're working around the clock, my Secretary of State, to prevent a wider war and reunite hostages with their families and surge humanitarian health and food assistance into Gaza now. To end the civilian suffering of the Palestinian people and finally deliver a ceasefire and end this war. Those protesters out in the street, they have a point. A lot of innocent people are being killed on both sides. Just as we worked around the clock to bring home wrongfully detained Americans and others from Russia in one of the most complicated swaps in history, but they're home. Kamala and I are going to keep working to bring all Americans wrongfully detained around the world home. I mean it. Folks, I've got 5 months left in my presidency. I've got a lot to do. I intend to get it done. It's been the honor of my lifetime to serve as your president. I love the job, but I love my country more. I love my country more. And all this talk about how I'm angry at all those people who said I should step down. That's not true. I love my country more, and we need to preserve our democracy. In 2024, we need you to vote. We need need you to keep the Senate. We need you to win back the House of Representatives. And above all, we need you to beat Donald Trump. And elect Kamala and Tim President and Vice President of the United States of America. Look, they'll continue to lead America forward, creating more jobs, standing up for workers, growing the economy, lower the cost to American families so they just have a little more breathing room. We've made incredible progress. We have more work to do. And Kamala and Tim will continue to take on corporate greed and bring down cost of food. They'll keep taking on Big Pharma, making insulin $35 a month, not just for seniors, but for everyone in America. And capping prescription drug costs at a total of $2,000, not just for seniors, but for everyone. And folks, that's going to save America again tens of billions of dollars. Folks, they'll make housing more affordable, building 3 million new homes, providing $25,000 down payment assistance for the first-time home buyer, more than the 10 we approved. Donald Trump wants a new tax on imported goods, food, gas, clothing, and more. You know what that will cost the average family, according to the experts? $3,900 a year in a tax. No, that's a fact. Kamala and Tim will make the child care tax credit permanent. Lifting millions of children out of poverty and helping millions of families get ahead. But you know what Trump has? He created the largest debt any president had in 4 years with his $2 trillion tax cut for the wealthy. Well, Trump has a new plan. He wants to provide a $5 billion tax cut for corporations that are very wealthy. Put us further in debt. And folks, you know we have 1,000 billionaires in America. You know what their average tax rate they pay? 8.2%. If we just increase their taxes, we proposed to 25%, which isn't the highest tax rate even, it would raise $500 billion new dollars over 10 years. They'd still be very wealthy. Look, Kamala and Tim are going to make them pay their fair share. They'll protect Social Security and Medicare. Trump wants to cut Social Security and Medicare. Kamala and Tim will protect your freedom. They'll protect your your right to vote. They'll protect your civil rights. And you know Trump will do everything to ban abortion nationwide. Oh, he will. You know, Kamala and Tim will do everything they possibly can. That's why you have to elect a Senate and a House to restore Roe v. Wade. The ancient Greeks taught us that character is destiny. Character is destiny. For me and Jill, we know Kamala and Doug are people of character. It's been our honor to serve alongside them. And we know that Tim and Gwen Walz are also people of great character. Selecting Kamala was the very first decision I made when I became our nominee. And it was the best decision I made my whole career. We've not only gotten to know each other, we've become close friends. She's tough, she's experienced, and she has enormous integrity. Enormous integrity. Her story represents the best American story. And like many of our best presidents, she was also vice president. That's a joke. But she'll be a president our children can look up to. She'll be a president respected by world leaders because she already is. She'll be a president we can all be proud of. And she will be a historic president who puts her stamp on America's future. This will be the first presidential election since January 6th. On that day, we almost lost everything about who we are as a country. And that threat, this is not hyperbole, that threat is still very much alive. Donald Trump says he will refuse to accept the election result if he loses again. Think about that. He means it. Think about that. He's promising a bloodbath if he loses, in his words. And that he'll be a dictator on day one, in his own words. By the way, this sucker means it. No, I'm not joking. Think about it. Anybody else said that in the past, you think he was crazy. He is crazy, but you think it was an exaggeration, but he means it. We can't let that happen. Folks, all of us carry a special obligation. Independents, Republicans, Democrats. We saved democracy in 2020, and now we must save it again in 2024. The vote of each of us cast this year will determine whether democracy and freedom will prevail. It's that simple. It's that serious. And the power is literally in your hands. History is in your hands. Not hyperbole. It's in your hands. America's future is in your hands. Let me close with this. Nowhere else in the world could a kid with a stutter and modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, grow up to sit behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office. That's because America is and always has been a nation of possibilities. Possibilities. We must never lose that. Never. Kamala and Tim understand that this nation must continue to be a place of possibilities, not just for the few of us, but for all of us. So join me in promising your whole heart to this effort, and where my heart will be. I promise I'll be the best volunteer Harrison Waltz has Cam ever seen. Each of us has a part in the American story. For me and my family, there's a song that means a lot to us. It captures the best of who we are as a nation. The song is called American Anthem. There's one verse that stands out, and I can't sing worth a damn, so I'm not going to try. I'll just quote it. The work and prayers of centuries have brought us to this day. What shall our legacy be? What will our children say? Let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, America, I gave my best to you. mistakes in my career, but I gave my best to you. For 50 years, like many of you, I've given my heart and soul to our nation. And I've been blessed a million times in return with the support of the American people. I've either been too young to be in the Senate because I wasn't 30 yet, and too old to stay as president. But I hope you know how grateful I am to all of you. I can honestly say, and I mean this from the bottom, give you my word as a Biden, I can honestly say I'm more optimistic about the future than I was when I was elected as a 29-year-old United States Senator. I mean it. Folks, we just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America. And there's nothing we cannot do when we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
President Joe Biden, the 46th president of the United States, wiping a tear away after his daughter's introduction with an extended ovation when he took the stage with cheers of "Thank you, Joe," from this crowd. Well past prime time, past midnight on the East Coast, he was in this State of the Union speech cadence. And really hitting sort of a yelling tone for a lot of the speech. It came off as almost angry, not full of joy, but he was hitting themes that he's hit before. January 6th, fight for democracy, the threat to democracy, and talking about Charlottesville, how he started his campaign. He obviously passed the torch towards the end of this speech. It took him a long time to get to that passing of the torch. But on the stage now, the new nominee, and it's hard to believe, Martha, that it was just a short time ago that this was going to be his convention.
Yeah, it's incredible, Brett. I mean, we have covered a lot of conventions over the years, and we have never seen anything like what we just saw. The current president, that's Hunter Biden's son, on stage waving to the crowd here. I mean, it's hard to sort of process that we have seen Joe Biden nudged out and off this stage. And tonight they gave him this huge chunk of time very late into the evening to sort of give his farewell address at the Democratic National Convention. 2020, he was in a parking lot as he accepted the nomination during the COVID pandemic. But, you know, this is a very bittersweet moment for him. He was very gracious to Kamala Harris and spoke very fondly of their work together. So let's bring in our panel and see around the horn here what everybody thought about tonight. Brett?
I thought the most poignant moment of the whole speech was at the very beginning when he came out and embraced his daughter, and you could see the emotion in his face. you couldn't help feel for Biden. This is not the ending he had anticipated. This is not the end. These were his delegates who were prepared to nominate him until a few weeks ago in that fateful debate. And I think it's a good night to show a little respect and sympathy for him. This is his last meaningful moment as an important force within his party. A sad moment for him, no doubt. And these are his delegates. Remember, they're all, as I mentioned, prepared to. So I think their applause is earned by him. He, after all, won them. So as he leaves the stage, I think we can look at him with a certain sympathy.
But this is he's got 5 months left as president. As president of the United States. But this was sort of his political end.
Yeah, it's a
political funeral.
Political swan song. This is it. And he spent an awful lot of it in almost angrily defending his record in office and making his claims about the things he'd achieved and so on. There was not any evidence that he was aware that a great many people in this country had lost confidence in him and had a long time ago. But there he goes. Party relieved, but he's done.
Dana.
I thought the best part of the speech actually was the end, and not because it was just entirely way too long. All day long, they said from the White House that this was going to be a speech about the future. It was very little about the future, but at the very end, he took a moment to look all around this auditorium and thank the people, and it seemed so genuine, and he was grateful for it. And then that moment at the end, but the family comes out and there is a transition, so you finally did see that. I would say this though, I do feel that this is, imagine if this was the night that was Thursday night and he was the nominee for the Democratic Party and he gave that speech. What everybody in America and around the world would be thinking, how could this possibly be? We would not be in a tied race between Trump and Harris at that moment. The last thing I would say is he once again brought up Charlottesville and the Fine People hoax. But at the same time, when he talked about the protesters protesting for pro-Hamas against the Gaza war, he said that they have a point. And you have to wonder if anybody really thought that through when they were writing the speech.
Yeah. Harold, your thoughts?
I agree with what Dana and Britt have said. Interesting. I looked around the arena as he was speaking. Everybody stayed. Mm-hmm. Everybody listened. They clapped during points in the speech where he was expecting applause. He recited the accomplishments, which we thought he would do. And I agree with Dana. This was a speech he would have given had June 27th gone well. And even the follow-up to June 27th, interviews he did on the 28th and the 29th. I just marked down June 27th, July 21st, he said he would not run. July 23rd, he spoke publicly about it. Now, August 19th, to Britt's point, he gave his farewell speech as a politician. He'll be president the next 5 months. I teared up a bit. I got to tell you, I thought, like Dana said, when he said, I gave my best to you, whether you agree with him or disagree with him, you have to acknowledge it was an astonishing act of courage, humility, and goodwill his entire career. And I wish him the best the last 5 months of his presidency.
There was a lot about him, obviously. And he did talk about his vice president, Kamala Harris. But it did feel like he was holding on to that torch, for this speech. And that embrace at the end, obviously, on stage sent a message. He said he's going to be the biggest volunteer for the Harris-Walz campaign, and he will give them his best as he gave America his best. Let's go to Bill Hemmer down on the floor. Bill, thoughts?
Yeah, I tell you, Brett, this night's never happened before. We can all say that. Not even LBJ came to his convention here in Chicago in 1968. Two bit of news here. You may not have been able to catch it from watching this speech. He had the two lines that I think made news. Number one, those protesters outside have a point. And then he went on to say on both sides, he ad-libbed that line. And then he said toward the end, he said, all that talk that I was angry to step down, it's not true. That was not in the prompter either. Now we await Barack Obama. He'll be here, the headliner tomorrow night, 20 years after his introduction at the DNC in Boston, Massachusetts. And America's Newsroom starts in like 8 hours, so cut us some slack and come join us for Tuesday.
Dana's ready to go here.
No, I got an alert from my phone that I was supposed to be in bed. I was like, I
know. Yeah.
All right,
Check
quick
that out.
minute from Kellyanne, then a minute from Carl. Kellyanne, you first.
I thought Joe Biden missed a great opportunity to do what Kamala Harris is doing, which is reinvent himself and reset. He missed an opportunity to inspire and unify. If a young person 30 years from now watches the debate and then watches the DNC speech, they're not going to understand his legacy of 52 years. They're going to see somebody whose debate, there's 90 minutes to find his 52-year career. He lost the presidency, and then the speech tonight, I think, helps the Democrats believe that they made the right decision in having him exit the race. I don't know about the next 5 months of governing. Harold's right, winning's important, but folks, governing's essential. And I don't think we're going to hear much from him anymore. I don't know that Kamala Harris is going to invite Joe Biden to campaign with her, especially after tonight. This may be the last that we hear of him in a big way. Don't think he's going to be asked to be the volunteer out there for the down ballot Senate and House races, and maybe even with her.
Carl, there were people out there chanting, "Thank you, Joe," and some of those same people were really thanking him that he's not the nominee now.
Yeah, look, I'd make 2 points. I agree with Dana and Britt that there were grace notes at the beginning and the end, but most of this was angry, shouting, yelling at the people, and it was self-centered. It was all about him and what he had thought that he had done. And look, he convinced no one who was sitting on the sidelines today that they ought to support Kamala Harris, because it was like the only thing he didn't say was Biden economics is working, but he said virtually everything else. I thought it was peculiar. 500,000 EV charging stations. You know how many there are in America? Eight. And they're in Bradford, Vermont. So go there and see his great accomplishment. And the other thing I'd say is I think there's a palpable sense of relief in this auditorium tonight that his moment has come to an end. They made the right decision. This reaffirmed what they have been feeling, the delegates in this room, for weeks, which is he was going to lose, and they're grateful that he pulled out. And it was in many ways a sad speech.
Well, thank you
Going to see
all.
a hard pivot for the rest of the week. It's going to move on from Joe Biden, I think, in a big way, and that starts tomorrow night.
This is night one. It was a long one. It's actually morning one now on the East Coast.
Morning. Day 2 now,
Yes.
actually. All right, thanks for joining us, everybody, at the Democratic National Convention. We'll see you tomorrow all day on Special Report, on The Story, and tomorrow night.
But stay right here for a live edition of Gutfeld that starts right now.
Oh, yeah. All right. Everybody's in their pajamas.
Close your robe, ma'am. Happy Tuesday morning. Tonight, Joe Biden gave his speech to pass the torch to Kamala Harris. Usually when Joe passes the torch, it's after he used the bathroom on Air Force One. Now, some people are wondering why he would agree to speak on the first night and not the big and final closing night. And don't worry, they just told him tonight was Thursday. The DNC released their platform document on Sunday, and it mentions Biden's second term over a dozen times. But who knows, maybe second term was...
Well, thank you for watching. One second here. This has been DNC coverage of the coverage. And As always, thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Be good to each other. And we'll see you next time.